Let's start. Anne Marie, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Jones. Councilmember Kemp.
Here.
Councilmember Whalen.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Orgill.
Here.
Mayor Renagi.
Here, and then I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please stand and put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam and City Attorney, do we have any closed session announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Council convened in closed session pursuant to the 4 items listed on the agenda. There was no public comment in advance of the closed session, which the council recessed into closed session at 4 p.m. There is no reportable action on items 1, 2, or 3 of the closed session agenda. I'll note that on item 3, that was listed for 2 cases. The City Council only reached 1. The City Council did not reach item number 4. So those will be continued to another meeting. The City Council recessed from closed session at 5:01 p.m.
And then, Madam City Attorney, is there an issue if we move the interviews for and appointments to the Parking, Traffic, and Circulation Committee after we take general public comment and before the consent calendar? Is there an issue with that?
No issue with that.
Or even after the consent count, after we?
You could do that.
Well, that'll
tonight,
be the
too.
first item on consent.
Sure.
Good. Okay. So we will start with some extraordinary business. I'm going to come down here with a proclamation recognizing Alex Martin as the 2025 Special Olympics of Orange County Athlete of the Year. So I'll come down there. Yeah. Yeah, how's it going? So do you want to stand with me here?
I love you, Mr. Mayor.
I know we went to El Moro together. El Moro, Thurston in the high school. So
Go Breakers.
go Breakers. So, and if the whole family wants to come up too, that you're welcome to. So here, Alex, I'll give you this.
Hey, buddy.
Do you want to hold this?
Yeah, and my honor.
Good. So, okay. So it is this very special moment, especially when you have a former a friend from school that's getting an award like this, but it's a special moment when we get to celebrate one of our own, someone who's not only made a lasting impact on our community, but also serves as inspiration far beyond it. Tonight, we recognize Alex Martin for being named the 2025 Special Olympics of Orange County Athlete of the Year. Let's give him another round of applause. Wow. Since moving to Laguna Beach in 2003, Alex has truly become a part of the fabric of our town, graduating from El Moro, Thurston, and Laguna Beach High School and contributing his energy and positivity through local employment and volunteer efforts. Alex's journey with Special Olympics spans more than a decade. He's a multi-sport athlete, a respected public speaker, a youth mentor, and a tireless advocate. And whether he's mentoring young athletes, speaking at major events, working at Harvest at the Ranch, or operating his own shredding business, Alex leads by example and lives the values of perseverance, kindness, and community. His commitment to service, sportsmanship, and inclusion reflects the values we hold dear in Laguna Beach. And I feel like this is what makes Laguna Beach special, is that, inclusion and making sure that everyone has a place. And so Alex, I'm so proud of you and so honored to be up here. Do you want to say a few words?
No, after you, Mr. Mayor, you go first.
No, do you want to just say thank you and?
Thank you, Mayor. Alex.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So if you want to have the whole family come and we'll do a picture and we'll have the whole council come down. Do you want to get the whole family? How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Okay, yeah, accomplished family here. Okay, so now we have the Laguna Beach water polo team. Who wants, you guys want to all come up here and who wants to? Let's have the girls water polo team come up here. So Laguna Beach has always been a community that supports its youth and takes great pride in their accomplishments. And tonight we are thrilled to honor a team that brought all of us together in celebration. Laguna Beach High School Breakers girls water polo team. With a record of 20 wins and 12 losses, the Breakers captured the Surf League championships and earned their place in the CIF Southern Division I finals. In a thrilling match against San Clemente High, they emerged victorious in the CIF first sudden death overtime, a moment that will go down in water polo history. Wow, that's cool. This marks the team's 6th CIF sectional title, a testament to the strength and tradition of the LBH's water polo program. These student athletes have trained relentlessly, competed fiercely, and supported one another every step of the way. I'd like to extend our thanks and admiration to head coach Katie Teets. Where's Katie? Okay, come up here, Katie. Here, Katie, come, yeah. And her coaching team who continue to mentor, motivate, and mold young athletes into championships. You know, it's cool. I got to go to school with Alex Martin, and then so it was, you know, a Special Olympian of the Year in Orange County, and then 2 Olympic athletes in the Fisher sisters. So it's pretty cool to be able to have that tradition in our community. So do you want to say a few words? Okay.
Well, yeah, we just want to say thank you to the community for the support. The Fishers, like you mentioned, Eric Fisher helped us all the way through. We have dads here, Rob Carver, and many who have been involved in this program, water polo all the way through. I see some young kids even here tonight. So just thank you to the community for all the support and awesome. Thank you.
Good. Okay, then we'll do a photo, and then let's get the whole council in this photo. Get the whole council. Okay, and then we have the final item of extraordinary business is Mike Esparza. Where's Mike? Come over here, Mike. So Mike started working for the city of Laguna Beach on February 1, 2002. He was hired as a motor sweeper operator and has held this position his entire career with the city. For the first 13 years, he was responsible for the downtown route, which was 3:30 a.m. to 12 noon Monday through Friday. You must have seen some interesting things during those hours.
Nothing good happened.
No. In those 13 years, Mike never had one complaint. Mike now covers the city's daily route for North and South Laguna, and in his 23 and a half years of service, he has never had a single traffic accident, which is amazing when you look at the way our roads are shaped, right? So good work on that. During his career, Mike saw the city's street sweeping program expand to 7 days a week, and he was an integral part of the weekend sweeping operation. Mike always seemed to enjoy his job, and his supervisor could always count on him to handle any special requests. He will miss Laguna Beach as it was 23 years of his life, but he has good memories, and will especially miss seeing the smiles of the residents that he has served. So we are all grateful for you. And do you want to say a few words?
Yeah. Probably the best job I've ever had. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you. I believe Wilson, is that, who's with you? Your wife, do you want to come in the photo? Good, okay. We'll get you a little-
Mr. Mayor, as you're coming back up, I do want to do one more announcement, and I didn't want to embarrass her, but we're also offering best wishes in retirement to Cassie Walder. Cassie, if you could stand up.
Can we do a picture? Let's do a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to come up for a picture. Cassie has been our communications manager through thick and thin, and she's looking forward to retirement in Colorado and with her family and her pups. And we're really going to miss her because she's been a tremendous strategic friend of ours and worker, and been through emergencies and EOCs. And I've told Cassie how much I'm going to miss her. Our whole organization is going to miss her wisdom and her help, and the many times we needed it. So thank you, Cassie. Wish you all the best.
You take the whole conversation that's happening.
Look, Cheryl's like, do I trust someone else?
Cheryl's not going to go with this camera.
Sorry, remove the Well, that's a lot of pictures.
You want to do it now? Yeah, she'll stick around. Okay, Cassie, will you stick around after public comment? Okay. Okay, so Dave, at this point, do we have any additions or deletions to the council agenda?
We're going to recommend that item 11, which is the grant of an easement, be held and heard roughly at the same time that the appeal A is heard. That's the only change I had.
Good. Okay. At this point, we are going to take public comments on non-agenda items. These will be items that are not on the agenda, but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Laguna Beach City Council. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and so please line up and to speak.
Good evening, Mayor, many members of the City Council. Tom Slattery, 31539 Eagle Rock Way in South Laguna, and a opponent of the undergrounding utility district because for some reason my property and my 2 adjacent neighbors have been sucked into it, and we're not going underground, but we're having to pay full freight on the assessments. So that's my ongoing battle for the last 4.5 years. But also I'm opposed to it, as many people in South Laguna area are in this district, for the horrendous cost. The city's in for 20%, which I don't know the exact number, but it could be 1.5 million or so of taxpayers' money from the entire city for this very small assessment district. And also, we have the park, which is 3 parcels or 3%. There's like 100 parcels in this assessment district. And so 3 parcels at the park, the village park, be 3%. And that's $180,000 of taxpayers' money yet again into this project. And that's taxpayers' money from all of the city. So I oppose that also. And also there's a thing about people just say, well, you just put it on your property tax. But most people have noticed that there's a cap on a property tax now of 10,000. And that means that like 99% of all the people in this district will exceed that 10,000 if this assessment district goes through and everyone's assessed at least $4,000 extra a year, let alone the impact on affordable housing in South Laguna, which there are a number of rentals, and those rentals will have to go up 4,000 simply to break even. So it's not a really good deal. The cost is way out of hand. My late wife and I were involved in the Coast Royal Assessment District, which was 220 parcels with no problems, and everybody was very happy. And our assessment was with a fantastic view, and a pole behind us on Cianotos was less than 20,000, and the guy across the street was 47,000 because the pole was right in front of his house. It's a matter of methodology. The fellow that's doing this assessment district is doing everything by square footage, and so it's really a problem for the park. Is $180,000. So in summation, I'd like to ask the council, the 4 members that can vote on this issue in the near future, that you might consider voting no on assessment district for those 3 parcels, and let the residents that actually live in the area and own the property vote fairly and squarely on what they want and not be diluted by that $180,000, because that's how
Thank you.
it works. It's all added up, all the money. And we'll be asking the water district the same thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Council. Ginger Wallace. Happy Earth Day from the Laguna Blue Belt. We're excited to announce our 14th annual photo contest. It's starting today on Earth Day, and it's celebrating our marine protected areas and the many ways locals and visitors enjoy our beautiful ocean and MPAs. Entry is free. It's been free for 14 years. It still is. And everyone, regardless of skill, is encouraged to enter and share their special experiences and love for the ocean. This year, we partnered with the Boys and Girls Club, and we've added a new category for 13 years and under. So we're excited about that. Don't forget that following the contest, we have the public gets to vote for their favorite one of the entries. So that is a great opportunity for everyone. It's called Best of the Rest. Cash prizes of up to $500 will be awarded to the winners at an art reception August 7th that is hosted by the Laguna LCAD, Laguna College of Arts and Design. We're very appreciative of that. Please don't miss this really fun event to get to meet the winners and their families and other ocean enthusiasts that night. Photos will be on exhibit there for 2 weeks after the end of it. Finally, we're super honored that the contest will be judged by pioneering, drumroll, IMAX film director and 2-time Academy Award nominee, Greg McGilvery, as well as renowned marine biologist and photographer Julianne Steers, and Project O's Rich Gurman, TEDx environmental educator. Don't miss the fun. Visit lagunabluebelt.org to learn more. But most, I want a special thanks to all of you for supporting the Laguna Blue Belt and our MPAs all these years. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a few of the posters for each one of you.
Good. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, council members, and happy Earth Day. My name is Christina Giudice. I'm a program manager at Orange County Coastkeeper. I did have some slides that I wanted to present. Thanks. First, I want to thank the city for supporting our project and helping us reach out to members of the community. Our program is called the Aliso Beach Wildlife Habitat Monitoring Program, also known as the Burn Buddies. And we work on monitoring human and wildlife activity in the marine protected area containing Aliso Beach, Aliso Creek, and Treasure Island. Next slide, please. So that's a little display of what our educational booth looks like. The Burn Buddies have been sharing educational information and materials with visitors, including stickers, brochures, and a watershed model for kids, as well as a GIS map of the Aliso watershed. And from January 2024 to now, the Burn Buddies have conducted 30 outreach events and made 130 educational contacts. So that's just our little setup. We have information on tidal exploration, respectful beach-going activities, and anything about the Blue Belt. Next slide, please. Also, from January 2024 to now, 13 volunteers, interns, and staff members have taken 186 surveys to record human activity, disturbances, and wildlife behavior in this area. There were 813 total hazards and disturbances that included disturbing the wildlife habitat, digging out the natural sand barrier to surf the creek, collecting biota, viewing the breach berm, and swimming in the creek. Aliso Creek had the most of these disturbances, and it was 85% of our observations. So that's the top left graph with all of the potential violations and hazards in Aliso Creek. And then the bottom left is wildlife observations. We did a proportional graph across our 3 sites, and we mainly just saw gulls and other birds. And then we made a human disturbance and bird interaction graph to kind of understand the relationships between these different disturbances that are occurring and how it's affecting the wildlife. But we chose birds because those are the ones that are most prominent. So we're seeing a higher frequency of disturbances in the summer months, so from like July to August, and then you can see those bird counts start to dwindle, even though that's where they would be breeding or nesting during that time, so you'd see a lot more of them. But because of the higher disturbances, we can kind of see that sort of relationship between them. And then towards the winter, it starts increasing. There's less people at the beach and therefore less disturbances. Next slide, please. So just next steps. With more funding, we're going to start continuing our research and outreach, and we just hope to research more about the protected species that reside in the berm and the creek habitat. And we just want to prevent further threats to equal beach access, and so we can cherish these valuable resources and sensitive wildlife in our marine protected area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, city staff, and neighbors. My name is Patty Mouton. I live over the hill in Laguna Niguel, and I serve as Vice President at Alzheimer's Orange County, where I've been on staff for 20 years. I'm here tonight just to share and to make sure that the Laguna Beach community is aware of the free programs and services that Alzheimer's Orange County offers our entire Orange County community. And we've served for more than 43 years in this capacity. We're not for profit, we're locally governed, responsive to community needs. We provide education, information, connection to community resources, legislative advocacy. And we are here to provide respite, and almost the most important thing we do is support families that are experiencing any form of dementia, because it's one of the toughest diseases that people can ever have to deal with. I have been involved with Alzheimer's Orange County for more than 20 years. I started as a volunteer while I worked in hospice care and became completely enamored of the importance of this work. So much so that at age 60, I went back and got a master's in gerontology. Orange County is aging faster than any region in the United States of America. In 2030, we'll have more 85-year-olds here than any place else in the United States. And half of those 85-year-olds will have dementia. Right now in Orange County, 165,000 people have it. And it has stigma, so people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to go to their doctor and ask about it. And early detection, early intervention, and treatment can make a huge difference in the trajectory of the disease. Support is one of the most important aspects for family members because there's such a high rate of burnout. And spouses who care for a loved one with dementia have a 60% higher mortality rate than their cohorts in society. So we want to take care of them too. I asked the city clerk to give you little goodie bags at your feet. It has some tokens that will help you remember Alzheimer's Orange County, your local not-for-profit, and we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for all the great work that you do. We appreciate it. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, council members. This has been one of the most beautiful meetings I've ever seen. Thank you for honoring the young women in water polo and Alex Martin and Mike. It was really beautiful. My name is Michelle Heiberg. I'm a 35-year resident with 3 recent graduates from the high school. And 3 years ago, I started the first digital detox nonprofit in the nation that helps us have more balance to get off of technology. We use nature, the arts, and gratitude as paths to inner peace, and definitely Happy Earth Day. In follow-up to our last speaker, I work on improving our brain potential so we don't get Alzheimer's. And I'm studying neuroscience right now as a gratitude teacher. But what we're really about is connecting to each other, connecting to nature, and having gratitude for Laguna Beach. I'm inviting the entire community to join us at the Rivian on Friday, May 9th, where we're celebrating all generations of social impact leaders around those subjects. And we're really delighted to have this event. We've been so impressed with Rivian and all that they've been featuring. And we want to invite the entire community to join us. A few of you have been nominated. We'll have the winners out the end of the month. And I hope you can be with us. So again, it's Friday, May 9th. It starts at 6:30 p.m. We have a magician and live music for our happy hour and light food. At 7:15, we're going to do a super tight program, just a 2-minute PSA. And then we're going into 3 discussion groups about nature, the arts, and gratitude in Laguna Beach. And we'll be closing at 8:30 with a musical finale. And all are welcome. You can visit justgatherwellness.org to RSVP. We're doing a suggested minimum donation of $25 for adults, and everyone 19 and under is free, and community service hours are provided for all students. So hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for having me. My name is Sarah Rolfing. I'm a resident of Laguna Beach. I was actually born at Mission Hospital. I went to El Moro. I went to a local preschool. I went to Thurston. I went to LBHS, the works. And honestly, I have to pinch myself because I'm now finding myself raising my own 2 young kids in this wonderful community. They're 3.5 and 1.5. And I'm here today to speak about the Laguna Beach Montessori School located at 340 St. Anne's. I know the proposed affordable housing development is not on the agenda this evening, but being a mom of 2 toddlers, you do what you can when you can. So here I am. And I will also emphasize that there is a community of parents behind me figuratively. It's a tough time for us all to come here with small children. So please understand that. And what I really want you to understand tonight is truly how special the Montessori school here is in our community. On any given weekday, you'll find children thriving at this school, gardening, playing, learning, and growing into kind, curious humans who are more than ready to thrive as future LBUSD students. Beyond the quality of care that Montessori brings our children, it also provides an invaluable service to many local families. As a full-time working mom with a full-time working spouse, Montessori is one of the key reasons we are actually able to remain in this community. Childcare, like the quality of public schools, can be a deciding factor on whether families can stay or leave in communities. It's really hard. Montessori is one of the only preschools in town that offers flexibility, extended daycare that doesn't require busing our really young children to other locations, and summer school, many things that we have found necessary as working parents. As you likely already know, the Montessori school has not been included in the proposed affordable housing project at the Neighborhood Congregational Church where the school currently resides. While I fully support the need for affordable housing in Laguna Beach, I really do, I urge you to ensure that the future of the Montessori school is not overlooked in this process.
The potential displacement of this school would be a tremendous loss, not just for our kids, but for the many working families who depend on it and need childcare options. I respectfully ask that you make the Montessori school a top priority as you evaluate the housing development proposal. Please do not move forward without a clear and supportive plan for the school. Whether that means a guarantee of its inclusion in the new development or a city-supported relocation to St. Catharines or any other potential location, I truly believe we can create a solution that supports both affordable housing and early childhood education. Please, please prioritize our children, prioritize our families, especially our working families. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mazdin Hassim, and I'm the site director at the Montessori School here in town. I've been working here for the past 20-something odd years. I just wanted to start by asking, why isn't our school included in the redevelopment plan? We've been part of the community for 50 years. We are not just a school, but we are a place where kids grow, where families feel supported, and where lifelong memories are made. We've been a constant presence in the lives of so many families here, just like Sarah Rolfing here and her little son, who is actually in my classroom. If there is no way for us to stay in this space and have a space in the sanctuary, then I'm asking for your help in finding somewhere we can go, somewhere that's already zoned for a school. Because actually, that's the roadblock that we come into every single time. And we've been working with a realtor, and that's the same thing that she says. That's always the issue. You've told us that we have your support, council members, when it comes to moving into St. Catharines, and we are ready to work with you. But we need some real answers, and we need your direction. I love what I do, and this work means everything to me. A few weeks ago, one of our former students who now lives in Utah came back during spring break with his dad just to visit. He's a 7th grader now and way taller than me. His dad he just kept saying how much my co-teacher and me and I was such an important part of his growing in preschool. And all I could think of was, what if there had been no school when he was so eagerly waiting to come visit? We matter, the kids matter, and this school matters. Please help us find a way to keep it going. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and the council members. My name is Jabeen Faroqi, and I have been the program director for the Montessori School of Laguna Beach and a kindergarten teacher for the past 14 years. And as my colleague mentioned, the only question I have is why is the church or the city not including us, and supporting and identifying a location for us, for our school, which has been here for the past 50 years. To bring us into the plan, to include us in the plan and make us be a part of the plan. Personally, I have been here for 14 years. My kids have been to the school. They have grown and been a part of the school and the community. At this point, it's really rooted into my life and into my family at the same time. And the whole uncertainty right now is honestly a bit scary. And that really puts a lot of stress on my job and trying to figure out what needs to be done next. And hopefully you guys can think about what's happening and include us into the plan and think about the families too. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rona Myers. I am on the board of Just Gather Wellness with Michelle. And I'm just coming up here to say we're very excited about our party on May 9th, and we would love to see all of your faces there. So please come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kirk Millett, and I'm a resident of St. Anne's Drive, and I live directly across from the proposed Related and the Neighborhood Congregational Church's low-income housing. There's a few issues within the proposal that is difficult to understand how the city can support a 48-foot high rooftop venue going in where an existing church is. The height and an open air venue in a rooftop situation seems like it'd be not fitting for the neighborhood. And with limited parking, I feel that it would also impact, any events would impact the neighborhood further. As far as low-income housing goes, it is important, and I know it's a mandate, and in some respects, your hands may be tied to some of the stipulations or things that you can do to influence the buildings going in. But the things that personally are very clear to me is it will impact our view. I live directly across the street from Catalina, directly behind where the church and Related low-income housing complex is going in. The elevations that were disturbing to me was the 100-foot height of their roof, because our second-story floor is at 100 feet. So if they build the structure to the height that has been proposed, it will take out 2/3 of our horizon and ocean view from our living room, our dining room, our kitchen, and our rear deck. So there is a certain impact, and I'm willing to have, to carry some of that impact because we do need low-income housing. The problem is the size of the structure. It's 260 feet by 206 feet or 204 feet. And the overall size is massive. And so I'd like you guys to do what you can to bring it within a realm that would fit nicely or nicer in the neighborhood. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Krista Lisa. I'm also with Just Gather. I am the CEO, and I'm here with my team members to, again, invite everyone to our inaugural event at the Rivian on May 9th. Just Gather was founded in Laguna Beach. We are the nation's first digital detox. We celebrate getting off screens and getting back to nature, back to the arts, back to just gathering amongst other people. We are the orchestrator or composer of several organizations that are in the arts. So painting, singing, getting back to animals, just gathering. And so we really hope that everyone will take us up on our offer to come out and celebrate with us on May 9th at the Rivian. And happy Earth Day, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Betsy Klein, and I live on Monterey Street in South Laguna, where I've lived for the last 39 years. In the neighborhood that is currently involved in a problematic decision regarding the undergrounding project, I'd like to bring attention to this divisive issue regarding the assessment of the properties involved. When the undergrounding was first proposed by the neighbor pushing this project in 2020, we were told that the only cost to us property owners would be a few $1,000s out of pocket for trenching and hookups. And we were led to believe that the city would be paying for the cost due to the fact that Monterey, south of West Street, and also Virginia are considered escape routes in the event of an emergency. I supported the assessment going forward, believing that I would be able to come up with a few $1,000s for my property if it came to fruition. Fast forward to 2025. We now have been informed by the city that the assessments are 10 times more than what we were led to believe. I attended the information meeting held last month by Pierre Sawaya, which beforehand we'd been sent links to look at our individual property assessments. My lot is listed at a cost of $59,000. And that does not include another $10,000 to $15,000 for the trenching and the hookups. The $59,000 would be attached to my property taxes at a minimum of $4,000 extra a year for at least 15 years. The money for the trenching would have to come out of pocket and be due immediately. I've lived in my home since 1986. I'm now 70 years old and retired. I retired in 2021, but in 2023, I found myself having to return to work part-time as my fixed income became ravaged by the economy. And now, as we head into a probable recession, the cost of living will only continue wreaking havoc on those of us on fixed incomes. My neighbors and I are already concerned about what will happen this year with our property insurance rates now that the state of California has approved insurance rate hikes of up to 34.1%. due to the recent fires. A telephone pole blocking my view is not a priority. When I have dry rot that needs to be repaired, tenting for termites that needs to be done, and a major plumbing project coming up, those are my priorities that come from my home when it comes to my home. I absolutely do not want to be forced by a small group of people who are only concerned about their views to have to pay an extra $4,000 a year for the next 15 to 20 years, as well as first having to find $15,000 to pay for the hookups and trenching. And I shouldn't have to. Most of my neighbors and I will be voting no this summer, and I urge the City Council to do the same, as you have 3 very important votes to cast on behalf of the Village Green Park. So please support the majority of homeowners and vote no. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Brought a slide. Okay. Good evening. My name is Sharon Lyons. Good evening, everybody. I'm here tonight to talk about the West Street Underground project. From its inception, this has had many faults. Some would even say it was deceptive from the beginning. We were all sold on a methodology used at Coast Royale. The methodology included views as the most important aspect of being assessed. Somewhere along the line, the methodology changed and the price quadrupled, or in some cases, it's 5 or 6 times what we were sold. The neighborhood captain, although his price had gone down, I believe the whole project should be null and void. And if it's going to continue, it needs to start over from the beginning, because it wasn't presented to us, or it was presented one way and now it's a different way, totally different methodology. Also, it would help if everyone was given the most up-to-date, accurate information on the methodology and the price, which we weren't. We weren't told that the methodology changed. And when the report came out, there was a shock. I brought a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm looking at the methodology. This one is what we're using on West Street and what's being used in Woods Cove. And I have other ones. I didn't bring them all tonight, but every project, Coast Royale, Woods Cove, they've all been assessed based on view. So if you had no poles, your cost was down. The more poles you had, the cost went up. View is the most important thing. And for some reason, the methodology just all of a sudden changed, and it benefits some people more than others. I also have, maybe you could pass this around. This is what I was promised, that was going to be my cost on my property. I don't have any poles in front of my house. My house is actually on Coast Highway. The back of my house is on Monterey, which is an evacuation route. Trevor. So there's one pole in some bushes that if you're looking for it, you can see it. Otherwise, you would walk by, you would never notice it, but it's in the back of my house. It's not in the front of my house. And I'm paying the same as somebody who has 5 or 6 poles in front of them. Let's see. I'm asking the City Council to void the whole project, because the city was working in partnership with this, and I just feel that the information was left to the resident, the captain, to disseminate, and it wasn't disseminated correctly. Like I said, we were sold on one view and one price, and we were given a different one. So if you see my whole all in with everything is probably around 20, and now my lot is assessed for, I think, 59, and then another 20 for hookups, an electric panel, and that's another $4,000 to $6,000 a year on our tax bill on top of our property taxes. So best case scenario, I would like the whole project null and void. We can start over again if we have to. Otherwise, I would like you to vote no if it comes to a vote no on the park lots.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Council. My name is Roxanne DeGarmo, and I am also here regarding the West Street Underground Utility Project. I live on Monterey Street and West Street and Catalina, and I've lived there for 39 years, raised my children there, who are now grown up. But my husband and I still live there. And again, to reiterate what Sharon just said regarding the methodology that has changed, that is different from Coast Royale, Crestview, and as you saw, Woods Cove 2. So I'm asking the city regarding the park to vote no, maybe start this all over again so everybody has the correct information and we can go by that. And I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yeah, my name is Daniel J. Palomino. I live at 370 St. Anne's, and I'm also the owner of that property. I share a boundary line with the Congregational Church right now on the north side and on the west side. You've heard a lot of issues, and I'm sure over the past month you've got a lot of challenges around this. And certainly as the people that live in the area on St. Anne's, I'm right up against the church. Then I have neighbors across the street. So we all are challenged with what's it looks like it's going to happen. My topic today is going to be around the loss of my views. Because right now I do have two views, and I have sent previously, I've sent an email to you, and I was told it was a response to that email that you did receive it. So I have a view of the ocean. It's a tiny little view. Then I have a view of the hills and all the foliage. Okay, it's a beautiful, beautiful view. I bought the home in 1991. Refurbished it, and we really love the place. We love the entire area. So let me just remind you what I said in the mail I sent you. Let me just remind you what by reading some of these. I'm writing to formally express my concerns over the obstruction of my ocean and hill views by NCC, the related housing development, which will share my west and north property lines. Specifically, I'm raising this issue based on Laguna Beach's city ordinance, and I have reference to the ordinance which you say, there is a concern around having your view blocked by a building being put in. And specifically, the ordinance states is the nature and extent to which the view has been diminished over time by factors other than vegetation growth, such as new neighboring structural additions or residences, and that's 12.16.30 F. All right, just a reminder. Now, my duplex currently enjoys a partial but cherished view of the ocean and nearby hills, which contributes significantly to the value and enjoyment of my property. And my concern is, I want to be trapped in that little nook they're gonna have built around me. So, some people say that I won't lose value of my home, but how could I not lose value of my home? Those views are priceless. And I think all of you that live in Laguna Beach, if you have a view, you would not want to lose that view. So what I'm kindly request from the City Council, consider the scale and design of this development to address its significant impact on the surrounding properties, including mine, whether through adjustment of height, placement, and architectural considerations. I urge council to prioritize the preservation of existing views as part of the project's planning process.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aaliyah Mariner. I'm 12 years old. I go to Thurston Middle School, and I went to Montessori, by the way. Great school, the best. And I started the Aquagram in 2023. The Aquagram is a swim, climb, and walk from Crescent Bay to Victoria Beach, and is done by kids raising money for ocean conservation. So far, we have done this event twice, and we have raised $28,000 for ocean conservation in total. Now my main goal is to involve more kids and raise more awareness of the Aquagram and its cause. I've come up with an idea that could achieve both of these goals. We are all concerned about the amount of trash on our beaches and parks in the summer that visitors leave behind. I believe that this is a problem that kids could help with. I think that we should have an art contest for all the kids in Laguna. We would have 3 art contests, one for elementary and kindergarten students, one for middle schoolers, and one for high schoolers. There will be one winner from each category, and they would ideally get a cash prize. And their artwork will be displayed at the top of the stairs of each beach in Laguna. These signs would have some sort of slogan like, "Keep our beaches clean" or "Don't trash our home," which would remind tourists to be mindful of the beautiful place they're visiting. This is a great way to involve the youth of our town and shows them how to stand up for what they believe in. And it involves all kids, not just the great swimmers. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you find my idea worth thinking about.
Thank you for the very thoughtful input.
Hi, my name is Aaron Peluso, and I'm here to ask the City Council to reconsider direction given to staff at the Aliso parking lot study session a couple of weeks ago. Specifically, the direction was to refine option 3, which was the most intensive redesign of the Aliso parking lot. The reason Aliso is more than just a parking lot. It's an integral part of a treasured beach park. And the Public Works was tasked with seeing how many parking spaces they could cram into the parking lot and increase revenue without taking into consideration the visual impacts and the aesthetic impacts to what is really one of the more beautiful beach parks in California. So I think that should be addressed, and I think we should have full public input on that. Additionally, it's got 275 spaces. I don't know of another beach in Laguna Beach that has anywhere near that. So I don't know if it's overparked, but it's certainly the most parked beach already in Laguna Beach. And that's evident because when those parking lots are full, the beach is completely packed in the summer. Specifically regarding the financials, I know that that's raising revenue is always a goal of the city. I am fearful that the estimates for the costs are low, as well as the estimates for the revenue that's going to be generated the costs are high, and the revenue that's going to be generated is low, is lower than the amount that was given to you. I think it's going to be about half of the revenue that council was provided with. And I don't really know on the construction cost, but I'm fearful of drainage requirements and other requirements, tree removal, additional design fees. If there is some sort of fight regarding the lot at some point, I just think that those costs are likely to climb. So I encourage you to bring this back as an agendized item so that the full community can weigh in on it. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Rich Plavitich. Here again, as you know, I'm actively engaged with the neighborhood near the NCC low-income housing project. However, we're in a bit of a black hole regarding information from the city on a number of items, and we really could use better engagement and communication and outreach to the local neighborhoods there. Some of these include next steps, timing, staking, city funding, concerns about conflicts of interest within city committees, And don't even get me started about the rooftop deck issues. But there's a lot of chaos and confusion within the neighborhood. What's going on? I'm getting calls myself multiple times daily. What's happening? And I can't answer. And I'm considered to be one of the so-called leaders of the concerns about this project. So please help, please engage, please let us know what's going on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mike Bean and Laguna Blue Belt Coalition. I wasn't going to speak, but I wanted to share with you, yesterday I went for a long swim at Heisler Park, great way to detox, by the way. And at Rock Pile and the Kelp Force, it was incredibly clear, crystal clear water. And I'm so proud of our community, the council, and our staff for what we've achieved here in Laguna Beach. Scientists from Scripps come all the way up from La Jolla to dive in our waters and call it the aquarium. And I couldn't agree more with them. We just had a friend return from the Caribbean, and they were on a long sailboat trip, and they were shocked by the absence of sea life. And this is what I've seen all around the world throughout my many years of traveling and scuba diving and free diving. Most places are completely depleted of sea life. And here in Laguna Beach, you can go out and see the whole variety of sea life. I would also point out it's a great way to detox, to get in the water. Your cell phone doesn't work. There's not a lot of people out there, which is kind of nice if you want to have some quiet time. Our petition, by the way, is moving through the Fish and Game Commission. They plan to have a full-day meeting to review these petitions in the summer, and I hope one of the council members can participate in that as well. Your support is incredibly important to complete the last mile of protection in Laguna Beach. By the way, the southern area of Laguna Beach is very different than the northern part of Laguna Beach, and the reason is that the topography is very steep, and this yields very deep cliffs. Yesterday around sunset, Ginger and I saw a very large whale and juvenile swim into Thousand Steps Cove, and we think they went over to Whale Cove in Three Arch Bay. So I know it's contentious. I know it's hard. I've been a leader my whole life. Leadership is tough, but the results are priceless. So thanks again for all your support. And I want to thank Anne Marie here for helping us load our information over the last few meetings. Thanks again.
Thank you. And are there any other speakers after Anne? If not, Anne will be our last speaker.
Thank
Go ahead,
you.
Anne.
Anne Christoph. I just wanted to raise more issues about the selection of option 3 for Aliso Beach. And I just urge you to put it back on the agenda so the whole community can hear the pros and cons of the various options. But number 3, I don't know if you recall, but that's the only one that requires a CDP, the only one that'll be appealable to the Coastal Commission, the only one that will then have lots of consultant costs connected with it. And I think you should ask yourself whether adding a few parking spaces is worth the hassle, the bad publicity, and the cost of processing something like this, plus the cost of moving giant trees, which probably what will happen is, I know Hallie asked me, can you move them? Yes, you can move them, but it's very expensive. And what's going to happen is probably, well, staff found out it's going to cost, say, $50,000 to move these trees. And wouldn't it just be better to start fresh with new trees? And so then we're back to the look of that parking lot the way it was when I first moved here in 1971, that it was being planted. So just take a breath. Just appreciate the lot for what it is. Don't cut down sycamores. Our Arbor Day is coming this week. We're going to be planting a tree at Aliso Beach Park on the inland side. And yet this plan, number 3, takes 3 of them away. So thank you very much for reconsidering that.
Thank you. So we are going to bring this back to the city council, so do you want, Dave, do you want to start?
Sure, I do have some comments to make, just announcements in general. There's an updated design out for Fire Station number 4. It's being circulated with our Planning Commission's ad hoc group and a number of residents from South Laguna. I want to make sure everyone was aware of that. I'm happy to share that with the council as well. The Main Beach project is moving along. As you can see, it's there's sod being laid down today. I believe it's still on track. I was going to look for Mark for a May completion, so just next month. But we appreciate everyone's patience with that. We did have a visitor stewardship town hall on Thursday, the 17th. About 45 folks attended, including not including staff. There's a survey we released associated with that town hall, and that'll be we're going to extend the opening period for that. So if you haven't taken the survey, please do, and you can look for it on our webpage. There's a facilities master plan town hall coming up this coming Thursday, so two days from now. It's at the Suzy Q. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. You don't have to attend all 3 hours. You can come for 1 or 2 or all 3, but each hour will be chunked into discussions for different facilities. And then lastly, we have a special council meeting on the city's proposed budget, and that will be Tuesday, May 13th. So in between our 2 May meetings, from 4 to 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. Again, May 13th, 4 to 6. And sorry, one more. For those folks following the promenade, that has been appealed to the city council, the design review from the planning commission and the coastal development permit from which was an administrative decision by the community development director. Those will come back to the council all at one time, likely on Tuesday, May 20th. And that's our regular council meeting, but a lot of the focus for that night will be on the promenade, and that meeting starts at 5 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Our city attorney, any update?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No update.
No update. Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, just a couple quick things. First of all, happy Earth Day.
Mhm.
It's an important day, and I appreciate some of our speakers tonight remembering that. We had a great Environmental Sustainability Committee meeting last night where we welcomed 4 new members. So it's almost an entirely new committee, which is really exciting. And I really appreciate people stepping up to be part of that committee. I think we're going to do good things. And lastly, just wanted to highlight a workshop that Laguna Canyon Foundation is having this Thursday on native plants. I think it should be really cool. Thanks.
Councilmember Kempf.
Yeah, just a couple things. First is most people, I think, commented on the NCC project are gone. We don't have, just to let you know, we don't have a completed application yet. Jeremy's our contact on that. We don't have a completed application. So people are asking about staking and timeline, but we can't really say anything yet because we don't have a completed application. So that's kind of where it is. Secondly, I just want to say how much I've appreciated working with Cassie Walder. And I was mayor last year. When you're mayor, you're the spokesperson for the city, and you're very busy doing videos and email blasts and a lot of interviews, and it's more than you would think. It's more than what I thought it would be. But you always want to represent the city well, and sometimes you have to ask people like Cassie for some guidance because some of these things can get kind of tricky, and you want to make sure what you're putting out is accurate. And also to provide information to people who are concerned about things. You hope you don't have a disaster. She's worked with me in 2022. We had 2 fires in Laguna, and she's an absolute delight to work with. She's very smart. She's tried to work with me on my makeup, but I really haven't made much progress on that. But I really wish you all the best, Cassie. You've been a great asset to the city and putting the good face on a city that really deserves it. It's a beautiful place to live. Thank you.
Well said. Councilmember Whalen.
Yeah, two things. One, I just before the meeting tonight, I received notification that one of our esteemed veterans, who's been a fixture at our Memorial Day and Veterans Day services, Arnold Silverman, passed away, and he was a member of our American Legion and VFW, and really an honored patriot in past years. So our thoughts go to Arnold tonight. And then to echo Sue's comments, I did want to thank Cassie in particular. We started out, she never had any problem with my makeup. I don't know. So, but it was during the pandemic, and I think Cassie really did a lot to build our communication program, which was key back then because people were craving information, from the city and what we were doing and how we were handling things and what the rule was today, what the rule will be tomorrow. And a lot of news, LA news stations coming down because we had beaches closed and those kind of things. And anyway, it just was, you did a professional job throughout. You always were prepared. You always had me prepared or the city manager prepared. So we will miss you a lot. But I know you're going to be in some good places other than Laguna. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Just run through my list of meetings and events. We had a community clinic event last week. It turned out very well. It was held at the Surf and Sand. It was a great lunch, very well attended. And of course, the Cultural Arts Center had a soiree at the Rivian Theater, and that was extremely well attended. I had a meeting with Joe Hanauer. I took a tour of the city with Jane, our deputy city attorney. I had a vector board meeting. NCC, kind of a briefing. There's still a lot. I'm hoping that I can get a lot more information on NCC, and I'll be happy to share what I can once I get it. We had a water district board meeting. Sue Kemp and I met with Karen Phillipson with the Visitors Bureau talking about tourist impacts. Meeting with Steve Britton, and I attended the festival board meeting on behalf of our mayor. And Cassie, I didn't get to work with you a whole lot, but thank you. Thanks for making everybody look good, and good luck out there.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just say it's been such a, I don't know how I'd be able to do the newsletter and all the different things that we do from a communication standpoint without Cassie. People are always coming up to me and complimenting me on it, but it's really not me. It's because of Cassie and Gerald. And I think to echo what both Bob and Sue were saying, I think Cassie's really been instrumental in overhauling the city's communication. I don't think there was a communications, or I know there wasn't a communications department before Cassie got involved, and she literally proposed the position, and that's kind of shows her initiative and how she goes after things. And I think that you can never, in the public sector, when we live in a complicated world, you can never over communicate. And so I think as a city, we can always do better, but we've done over the last few years a really good job of improving our communications and making it easier for residents to be able to, understand what's going on in government. And so Cassie, we're grateful for all that you've done for the city of Laguna Beach, and looking forward to seeing you when you're visiting in town. So with that, we will go to the consent calendar, and after we let's consider the consent calendar, and then we'll start with the PTC item before we get to the items that are pulled. So do any council members want to pull any items from the consent calendar? We'll start with council. Any council members want to pull anything? No? Okay. Do any members of the public want to pull anything from the consent calendar? Okay, so then.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I do need to recuse myself from item 11, which I think has been combined with
Oh, yeah. so
another item.
That's
later
not,
on.
we're not taking that right now.
Right.
So it'll be the consent calendar minus, thank you for the reminder. So I would, is there, so there's any public comment on no items being pulled? I don't see any public comment. So we are gonna, so I'll move that we approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 11, which will be considered later in the meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we are going to take the Parking, Traffic, and Circulation Committee applications. We have one opening and 3 positions. I don't think we need a staff report. So what we'll do is we'll provide 3 minutes of public comment. And Anne Marie, if you want to just call the people who are, in the order of the applications, if you want to just start there, and then any members of the public can provide public comment after the fact.
Afterwards, okay. So Jack, we'll start with you.
Good evening, councilmen and councilwomen. After what I just heard, it seems kind of inconsequential, volunteering for the committee. I've been a member or a resident of Laguna Beach since '95. My wife is native here, so we have quite a bit of history with the city. Prior to that, I lived in Santa Monica for 30 years, and I was a commercial interior architect and planner, predominantly working in the city of LA, West LA, and New York City. I've always had an interest in transportation and multimodal transportation, i.e. bicycles, scooters, etc. And I'm an avid cyclist, and I have ridden all over Orange County. I've been an avid cyclist for 40 years, and that is one of the interests that I have in the Transportation Committee is making cycling easier for the community, if that is all possible, through different various federal components, i.e. rails to trails and that sort of thing. I've also been, active in the ULI, which is our Urban Land Institute, when I was a member and being an architect in the city of LA. And I thank you very much for listening to me, and I would be very interested in doing and volunteering for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council for Jack? No. Okay. Well, thank you for applying. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eric, if you'll come up.
Mayor, Council, my name is Eric Pritchard. I attached a resume to the application. I think you have that, so I won't go through that. Look, I hear complaints about traffic and parking in Laguna like crazy from residents, and I hear it from people who try to come visit. And if I'm hearing a lot of complaints, you must hear tons of complaints. So I've got a bias toward action. That means I need to get involved and get something done rather than just complain about it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm volunteering to serve on the committee. I've got a background in transportation and some connections in transportation I think maybe are unique and could be helpful. But at a minimum, I think there's an opportunity for us to do better. And if I can be helpful, I'd like to do that. Unless there are any questions, I'll sit down.
Any questions? No. Well, thank you. Thank you for applying.
Jeff.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rodesheimer. I'm asking to serve another term on the Parking, Traffic, and Circulation Committee. I have served my 2 years. My last year was vice chair. Over those 2 years, I've tried to bring a thoughtful, consistent approach to people who come before us. I've also authored a memo on how we can use data from our city more proactively to push forward the goals and outcomes that we want from the PTC. With my background in data, tech, and governance, I think that fits well, and I'd like to be able to serve again to provide consistency and continuity to that committee. Looking ahead, I want to take what I've learned of those 2 years and also look at the Safe Streets initiative and how that can be implemented. I still spend a lot of times on Laguna streets running them, and there's still a lot of work to do, not just driving them, which we all get to deal with. So I'd be honored and privileged to serve another 2 years on the committee. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? No. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so do any members of the public want to comment on the Parking, Traffic, and Circulation Committee applicants? I don't see any. So we will bring this back to council. Anne Marie, you have passed out ballots for each of us.
Right. So you can just write the first name down for whoever you want to vote for to be put on a committee. And I just want to clarify that Jeff was not indicated as incumbent simply because he did not apply during the regular application period. He got his application in late. So it's up to you to consider him an incumbent because he is technically.
Good. So he technically loses his seniority if he's reappointed.
Apparently.
Okay. Well, okay, so. While you're doing that, I will continue to say what I've said before. The hardest votes that we have on the city council are appointing people to these committees because we always have such a talented group of people who apply. So it's a good problem to have, but it's still a hard decision to make. So appreciate everyone for applying.
Congratulations, Jeff. You did get reappointed. And Eric, you got the vote of Councilmember Bob Whalen. Jeff, you got Mayor Renagi, Mayor Pro Tem Orgel, Councilmember Kempf, and Councilmember Jones. So again, with 4 votes, Jeff, you're stuck on the committee.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for applying. So we will now, anyone need a break? We're good. So now we will consider the first item on our regular business calendar, which is the playground master plan. Who will be, oh, we have Alexis here, good. So we'll get
So
it
a
staff.
partnership between Community Services and Transit and Public Works.
Good.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Frank Lopez, Assistant City Engineer. With me tonight, Alexis Braun, Acting Transit and Community Services Director. And we also have Analicia Escobar Gomez as part from Community Works Design Group, our consultant for the Playground Master Plan. So in June of 2023, the council awarded a contract to Community Works Design Group, or CWDG, to analyze 9 playgrounds. And that was just the playgrounds for, to analyze them to prioritize for repair, replacement, to help inform our capital improvement program. As we started the process and met with the Recreation Committee, heard comments, staff thought it'd be a good idea to recommend a more comprehensive plan, a park master plan. And so we brought that forth to the council in February of 2024. Due to several reasons, council thought it might be better to just continue with the playground master plan. So we did do that. So the playground master plan, again, analyzed 9 playgrounds located at 8 parks and 1 at the CRC. Again, the purpose was to help guide and inform the capital improvement program, prioritize the repairs and replacements that were needed by identifying safety issues, and also reaching out to the community for aesthetics and amenities. Looks like. So there was actually extensive community engagement, including several meetings with the Recreation Committee. We had surveys that were online. On the far right, you see what someone would see if they came in to complete the survey. They could choose to do 1, 2, or all the parks. We received 376 responses in total, and they ranged from about 8 responses for one of the parks or one of the playgrounds, and 65, which was one of the highest for one of the others. So all the questions were vetted as part of the Recreation Committee's participation. They had an ad hoc committee that helped vet the questions that were part of the surveys. You can see also in the picture that signs were placed at all the playgrounds with a QR code that would connect residents and visitors alike to the surveys. We also had an in-person meeting on November 20th, 2024. So the analysis, again, was the 9 playgrounds, specifically with the adjacent walkways and pathways to the playgrounds. Those inspections were conducted by a certified access specialist, or CASP, and a certified playground safety inspector, looking at structural integrity, accessibility, and compliance with like ADA and CBC, which is the California Building Code. So that resulted in a prioritization matrix. This is an abridged version of the matrix that's in the plan. But again, You can see that safety conditions, ADA compliance, community input were all considered in prioritizing this. You also might notice that a playground like the one at Main Beach, which is a little bit newer than most, is rated a little bit higher, and that has to do with the heavy use and the conditions there, the salt. All that helps deteriorate that playground a little bit faster. So just to kind of summarize, again, we have a strategic guide to help us inform the capital improvement program, aligning it with the upgrades that are needed at all the playgrounds. That included cost estimates so that we can help scope each project. We will bring back the playgrounds individually. At that point, we'll be analyzing CEQA, as well as the funding that's required for each. Obviously, that'll be part of the planning process, and then we'll move on to design and construction, and we'll vet each individual playground through the standard CIP process that we follow. Obviously, that'll include Recreation Committee and possibly the Planning Commission as well. So finally, our recommendation is that you receive and file the Playground Master Plan, thereby acknowledging the document as a strategic guide for future planning and investment in city playgrounds. We're happy to answer any questions. Again, we have our consultant here to help, and Alexis as well, who we were all heavily involved in the master plan.
So question, how do we see this getting incorporated into our CIP? Like, I guess, and I understand that you went over sort of the recommendation of how this will be a next step, but it seems like on some, so I guess, can I get a better understanding of what the next steps are going to be for these?
Sure. Well, the master plan actually analyzes every playground. There's a section in the master plan for each, what was looked at. There's pictures, samples of what they found. They used all that information to compile and make recommendations for the improvements that are necessary, rating them by severity of, age, need of accessibility improvements, and I think I said age already, but all that to help prioritize that, plus the community input. So the matrix is a simple list. Typically, number one has the most need to be replaced or repaired. So we would take a look at that one. However, because of the detail that the consultant put into the plan, there could be some playgrounds where we can have maintenance activity that's done, and those activities are listed both in the individual playground as well as I believe at the end of the master plan. Those could be small improvements like replacing some of the hooks that hold the swings, for instance, which sometimes aren't supposed to have a large enough hole for a child to get their fingers through. So there could be some improvements like that could help us, in a sense, maybe readjust the matrix. So again, it's still inform and guide us. We would still analyze each playground, but it gives us a good place to start by also providing cost estimates for what replacement would look like. If you look at the full prioritization matrix, they provide the cost of improvements for just the safety improvements, the ADA, and for the replacement and cost of the playground. So
this isn't going to, so I think the way I see it, there's two approaches you could take with these playgrounds. You could, Village Green Park, for example, I think that's the highest rated for both categories. On that one, it seems like you're not going to go and just try to fix it as is. You would be looking at how do we make this, how do we kind of not start from scratch, but do a more major, renovation there, right?
Yeah.
But then some of the other ones you would look at doing more of these technical accessibility issues. And I understand there's a matrix, but when is that decision going to be made, and how are we going to actually get some of these products moving forward on a timely basis?
So for instance, as we developed the plan, we started figuring out that Village Green was already going to end up toward the top, if not at the top of our.
Yeah.
And so that was already budgeted. I think that's shown in the budget that's going to be recommended for 25, 26
Yeah,
Is that right, Tom?
so a brief sneak peek into the CIP. So with Village Green Park, there is an existing project. So there is funding. We were waiting until this report was complete before we made that project, before we implemented that project. So year one, as early as now, we could proceed with Village Green. And so what we've done is we've taken that prioritization matrix and then implemented basically one park each year.
That's great.
And so in the interim, obviously, if there's a component that's damaged at park number 8, we would work with our maintenance team to go out and fix that. But otherwise, we're aiming at doing one park a year or one playground a year.
So Village Green Park, I think we had that programmed in the CIP. I remember that was programmed in there maybe when the first budget, Mark and I were here. So we have all the money programmed is what you're saying, right? And we can move that forward.
Correct.
And do we have a timeline yet on that, or will that be coming back in the CIP? So that's exciting.
No, so it would be shown in the CIP as an existing project. And so that's where I said we could start as early as tomorrow. Essentially, where we would be is bringing on a designer, getting that design implemented. And some of what the report talks about is with each park doing, a smaller form of engagement for each park, developing what the final look and feel and elements would be. But that's what we would be ready to go.
Excited so we can get it started tomorrow. Good. Okay.
So Tom, does that mean, like if you're, I don't know, fixing the play equipment and stuff. So let's say we're working on Village Green Park and we're going to do something with the playground. Are you going to give the community some options of what they might like to have, or?
Yes. So that this report's going to give us kind of a basic framework, and then we would be working each year on each individual park to really further identify what amenities would be included, what the play equipment would actually look like. And so that we see that being as a kind of a collaborative approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Go ahead, Helen. Go ahead.
I think just to build on that point, each of these individual projects would have an opportunity for community and neighborhood engagement in terms of ultimately what amenities we have and what the actual playground ends up looking like, et cetera. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll caveat that with, again, because we are looking at the playgrounds, it would be a very similar, I won't say the same exact footprint, but similar footprint, but all of similar like what happened at Riddlefield, where all of the equipment was removed and replaced, but within the same general footprint, and then also making some of the ADA improvements and other improvements to get to the playground.
So in terms of the process, Tom, and just to tease that out a little bit more, I mean, the rec committee's been involved to date, in some of this process. The design ultimately will go to a DR hearing or no?
So that would really depend on what's being proposed. So to use Riddlefield as an example, that project, we worked real close with, I'll say with Alexis, with Community Services. We presented a couple iterations to the rec committee. They landed on the theme they liked. And at that park, the reason it went to Planning Commission was it exceeded the 15-foot height limit, so it required a variance. So that's what kicked it into going to the Planning Commission. So again, depending on how much is changing or what's being proposed, it may trigger that need.
That's a really good play area. It's very popular down there. I see kids on there all the time. You guys did a good job of
I have
that.
another question. So when we get down to each individual park, are you still going to work with the Community Works Design Group?
No, that's not part of their contract. It would be park by park, not to say that we couldn't or wouldn't.
So I understand that you did surveys when you worked on this particular, getting this information. Was there any visual observation during this analysis?
I'll turn to the.
Yeah, there was, we were on site at every park. Actually, Alexis and I participated, and Alicia was there, as well as one of her coworkers that was a certified access specialist and certified playground specialist. All the pictures you see inside the plan, those were all taken actually while we were there, I believe. So yeah, we were on site at every park.
It would just be interesting to understand that there, I noticed when at Main Beach, there are elements of the play area that get heavy usage, and then there are a few of the parts that don't really get any much use, right? And it would just be interesting to understand that when we move forward, just to make sure that we're, installing equipment that's preferenced by the kids.
Right. And I think, the plan obviously looks at, shows which equipment specifically is lacking and would need to be replaced. But obviously, I think as we do each individual playground, if we know that certain type of equipment is liked and used, that would help inform, and that could be brought up as part of the presentation to like the recreation committee and what the recommendations we make.
Thank you.
One other question. I realize this is just the playgrounds, right? That's not the whole parks, but we had the parks like Molten Meadows. I believe Molten Meadows, Alta Laguna were programmed in a while ago. We pulled them out during COVID. They never got redone. So is there a separate CIP component for parks?
Right now, no, there's not a separate CIP. There is one existing project that was identified for Ling, Molten Meadows, and Alta Laguna, I believe. But there was a council action to reserve that money for a potential pickleball or pool improvements at Lang Park. So that's really the only other park-related CIP.
Okay. So how do you evaluate that? I mean, the parks, I know you do basic maintenance, but how are the larger parks going to get evaluated? For some reason or another, those were programmed in for renovations, like major redos. And I recognize council, redirected. I think it was first during COVID, we pulled them out. But is there a plan, or how do we approach that? How do we approach park renovation?
Right now, it's really the focus is on the playground equipment, parks, that include facilities. We are looking at facilities with the facilities master plan, but other than that, it is really working closely with our maintenance staff, ensuring the basic functions are maintained.
But Tom, I know Mark's not here with you right now, but couldn't you see us doing a park master plan in the future, programming funds for it? Because that seemed like the way to tackle this one.
Yeah, as the person putting the CIP together, I think that would be the ideal solution to really guide that and ensure we're putting the resources in the right place.
Okay, thanks.
Or Dave, can we just put these in the CIP as opposed to just doing another plan?
Well, you need to know what you should prioritize, and we could do it. It could be a quick plan, but I always like to work.
I agree. Like a high level, we could just figure out
what's looking like it needs help.
For example, you would have guessed that Village Green Park would be the first on the list in terms of the and that's what it was. One final question: Newport Beach, they recently created a park. I think it's for disabled children, including a wheelchair accessible play structure, roller slide swings. Is when we're looking at accessibility in this document, and it was a really good report. So great job to the consultants. That's not focused on that, right? That's just focused on, or is that focused on getting it to where people who are for that population that's going to be served in Newport Beach?
The opportunity to incorporate those additional pieces into the actual playground designs. We initially just shopped the square footage in the area to a couple different vendors just to get some basic ideas based off the community feedback that was garnered from the engagement portion. So you'll have opportunities as each of those parks comes up to incorporate more of those accessible features. One of the ones for Laguna, the rec center, that was a good opportunity since it's already pretty well accessible with minimal improvements that would be needed, as a really good place to focus on bringing in some accessible units for the overall playground design there. And then at any of the other parks and playgrounds, those are pieces that those inclusive pieces can be added in and addressed as part of those accessibility improvements also.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions of staff? Good job on this report. So we will open it up for public comment. Do any members of the public want to weigh in on this plan?
And Christoph, I sent you a letter late this afternoon. I was involved in Village Green from the very beginning, starting in 1973. And we designed it twice. One set of play equipment in the very beginning of the park, and then again in 2003. And it was originally a very creative, hand-built, rustic design. There was existing pine trees there, a circle of 3 of them, and one of them had rope swings from the branches. We did a community-tied rope climber with a macrame guidance from one of the Sawdust Festival artists. And it was the request of the community to make this park very rustic and free character, creative, almost like the adventure playground, but not the kind of thing where the kids were building things or moving things around because we didn't have supervision. So that was a very popular park for a long time. And then we lost the pine trees. 2 of them fell over in storm. And then the neighbor was afraid the 3rd one would fall. And so the city cut the top off of it. Of course, it died. And that was the tree that had the tree house on it, that was designed by one of our local architects, Todd Stoutenborough. And Greg Abel did a rehab of that tree house and let it live a little bit longer. But then when it was redone in 2003, we had to give up the tree house. So I would just urge you, when you're looking at Village Green, to try to keep that in mind, that theme. We had some, I sent you an article that I did about meeting a man who had grown up with Village Green, maybe like you did, Alex. And he came from Dana Point, and he called it the Treehouse Park, and it was his favorite park. So each play area needs, I think, its own special character. And I'm pleased that you're going to be asking the community for their input. The second version that was done in 2003 was the best we could do under the circumstances to try to replicate some of the aspects of the original park, but it's not anywhere close, really. So, and it's very hard to do now with all these extra standards and all these extra rules, but maybe we can figure out a way to do that. I'd also like to suggest that the city consider an adventure playground, and maybe that's something that could be done at St. Catharines, where can be supervision. Huntington Beach has one where they open it only in the summertime. It's got water, it's got mud, it's got branches, it's got lots of opportunities for kids to just manipulate their environment under a semi-safe situation. So I'd like to see that added to your program. And I'm glad you're starting with Village Green. There's some issues that should be addressed right away. There's rust, there's broken parts and so forth. So maybe we should look at it for immediate repairs while the next phase of planning goes on. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ann. And are there any other speakers who want to provide input? We'll bring it back to council. I just want to say thank you to Ann, because without Ann and going to the Board of Supervisors when somebody wanted to develop homes on where Village Green Park is. We would not have that park today. So, and we're all grateful for, I'm particularly grateful for you and so many other kids who were able to grow up at that park. So I'm excited about the opportunities with Village Green Park as we move forward, and maybe we can move that forward in a very fast way so we can get shovels in the ground by the end of the year. Wouldn't that be cool? So anyways, any other comments from council? Do we need a motion on this item? Just to receive and
We were
file?
just talking about that. The receive and file is fine for right now. We're going to have to bring this back on consent so you can adopt it with a CEQA finding. So we didn't notice the CEQA finding, so.
What about just incorporating it with our CIP, or is there value in doing that as well?
There's certainly value in doing that as well, yes. But
Okay.
I think the plan itself should be
Regardless,
adopted.
either way.
Yeah,
We can just bring it back at budget time,
you can do that.
budget meeting.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think I want to get,
Yeah,
I
nothing is going to delay us.
but
so that we're ready to go.
the Village Green Park idea of what Tom said we can start tomorrow, that sounds like a good
Tom's
plan.
going to be out starting
And I think there's a lot of, as Ann alluded to,
shoveling and trimming.
there's a lot of opportunity, so.
Yeah.
Any other comments? We're good? Okay, so we are going to move on. Thank you for the great report on this. And thank you to Public Works and Recreation, the Recreation Committee, for your role in this. Now we are going to business item 13, Planning Division update and workload summary. Dave, this might be probably the one time that you've been looking forward to this report.
Yeah, thanks. And appreciate Matt coming up and Anthony from the community development team. Next slide, please. So our goal, so this is under the classification of significant progress. Again, we're not trying to do a victory lap, but the goal by the 15th of this month was a 30-day or less time with us, meaning with the community development, the planning team, for each plan check round. And then 45 days or less from zoning clearance to the timing of your first hearing. And that's the time period by which customers, clients get their staking plans, their noticing, and then we do the staff report. So we met that goal a few days before the 15th. So congratulations to the team. Comparing the average time with us back in August when we started to measure this, we were at 57 days average. And now we're actually down to 14 days average. In other words, 30-day is the maximum, but we're at 14-day average turnaround time with us. Next slide, please. So what worked? I think a strong effort by the community development leadership team. That's Matt, David, Anthony, Wendy, and Jane and Megan. And now Bill joined the team too. The concept of just measuring itself, because what's measured is managed. I think that gave us a good focus to this. Energov being fully implemented, a lot of effort on staff training, thanks to the community development team and Megan and Jane. Staff mentoring, strong effort by the principal planners to guide and help problem solve the newer planners. And then having more staff on board helped. Next slide. So there is more to do. The design review efficiency ordinance should be a significant help. You guys heard that less than a month ago now, and that's on its way to Planning Commission. Although we've got a team meeting on that to further flesh that out. What's also helped is more precision in the first plan check round, and Matt and Anthony can talk about that if you have questions. And doing a better checklist for the planners, it helps that it also has helped that when the applications are more precise. And that improved submittal in the first round really helps also avoid late hits in subsequent rounds. There's still other things that slow down efforts. This is, again, more to do, like historic assessments. We're trying to continue to improve that process. Looking at our response while the application is with the applicants, so making sure that we're available for questions and helping there. And then we need to continue to improve our data and reporting through Energov as more applications are moved to that platform. And then I did talk in your staff report, we've strategized about potentially changing the counter hours. We have some people who will work from home during Monday through Thursday. We're talking about making our working Friday a work from home day and a closed counter day. And so that people would expect to see and would see live people people working in the office from Monday through Thursday. So that's a discussion we want to have with you, not necessarily today, but welcome your input. Next slide. My last slide is just thanks. I want to thank the people that worked on this. I'd mentioned their names as well as Aggie and Gavin. It is important to honor progress, and I really appreciate all the work you guys put into that. So thank you. Turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Good. Well, thank you and good work on that improvement. I think that's a big lift. Maybe a question for staff over here. One, thank you to you both for your dedication. What do you think? So it seems like when you look at on page 3 and you look at the total zoning plan check workload, you would, if there was a correlation between us reducing the number of days for plan check, that at some point we would start to see a drop in the total in the workload, unless we had more applications than we expected. So are we also seeing a reduction in the number of plan checks that are happening? So because, for example, if you were able to have a deemed complete after 2 plan checks compared to 4, that's a huge difference in terms of the time. Are we tracking data on that? And I guess, why is the workload not started to go down significantly? Or is that something that maybe there's going to be a lagging indicator because of the staff reports and all of that? How do you look at the workload and the correlation to reducing the days for the first plan or for the plan checks?
So good evening, Matt Schneider, excuse me, Assistant Director, Community Development. So I think one of the key facts to keep in mind, and it didn't come up in Dave's presentation, is during this period of time, when you look back to August, we were at 192 active cases, and it's gone up to 276. So the volume has increased while we've reduced the number of days. So it really is volume driven. To the extent we saw a lower volume, and it's very unpredictable, what that volume is going to be from day to day. You are correct that intuitively it should be a more efficient and quicker process. But right now we're dealing with higher volume.
And do we know, so we know the data that we're reducing the average plan check. Do we have any data on, because I think the key metric is, and this does a really good job of articulating that, the key metric is the start of the process to the end of the process, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. And have we seen improvements there?
I don't have hard data yet. And one of the challenges is, as we've migrated to InterGov, projects that were started in the city before January 15th of this year, that data has to be manually calculated. So we're actually running both manual data checks and automated, and it's pretty labor intensive to merge those two together. So we haven't actually gone through that exercise, but that is a data point that we are tracking, and we will have moving forward once the migration is fully moved forward, where we're all in InterGov.
Good. Any other questions?
Yeah. Is there a day that InterGov will recognize if an application is incomplete or not?
Not through InterGov. I don't know if I should advocate it. I'm a big fan of artificial intelligence and trying to explore that. There's still a lot of limitations, but we constantly test to see if there's advantages of using it, not to replace, critical analysis, but I do think at some point, hopefully in my career, we'll benefit from that. We're moving towards it. So, but it's not a direct feature of InterGov.
If you had to assign a percentage of what slows things down, what percentage would you assign to incomplete applications?
I would say and Anthony, I'd be curious because he's got more institutional knowledge than I do here in Laguna, but the complexity of the code, I think, is number one. It's just extremely challenging. This is the most challenging code of any place I've ever worked in my career, and it's equally as challenging for the architects and designers on the other side of the counter. So, they struggle to meet the project needs of their clients and get those to fit under the code. And then state law changes a lot. It's constantly moving. So there's a little bit of a moving target. I think that's probably the biggest issue for incompleteness. we don't do a lot of cookie cutter in Laguna Beach. It's a lot of custom, a lot of creativity, and a lot of trying to maximize people's investments.
So it sounds like that would be the majority.
That would be my personal take. Anthony, I don't know if you have some other insight.
I would agree with what Madden mentioned, and I'll also add on that the most efficient process is one that isn't discretionary. And today we do have a large number of discretionary triggers in the municipal code, whether it's land use related or design related, or could also be just a function of the city being in the coastal zone as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Matt, this, I'm watching on this chart. So we started out with 192 August of last year, and now we're at 276. Are these projects, these are all application submittals that you're talking about that would typically have to go through?
Correct. They all typically come in as a zoning plan check.
Yeah.
The vast majority, obviously, single family homes, but we do see a fair amount of commercial as well. And so they're included in that.
Okay.
So maybe just to follow up on that, you've got currently 47 pending, pending zoning plan check. Is that what that?
Correct. So that means of the 276, 47 are on our side of the counter.
Yeah. So where are the rest of those?
They're out with the applicant. So we've provided correction letters and we're waiting for those to be resubmitted.
So if they've cleared zoning plan check, they're not in this chart anymore.
That's correct.
And then is there on the building side? So then they go to building, right? And they have to go through plan check on the building side, which is the second half of this part 2 of the chart up above. Part 1 is zoning plan check, part 2 is building plan check. So are we tracking building plan check side of it?
We do track that. Again, I apologize because it's manual, so it's pretty labor intensive, so we don't do it as often, but it's consistently been right around the 14-day mark that we're turning around on average. So we actually have really consistent, it's something the city should be proud of, really consistent and good building review times.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, now let's go to the public on this. Do any members of the public want to weigh in on this issue? No, we're going to bring it back to the council. So I think the key here is if we could figure out how to get like half of these applications going from 3 to 4 to 1 to 2, it's going to be a game changer for everyone involved. And so then the question is, how do we get there? And Sue and I have been talking about this with Dave a lot. One of the ideas is, what if we brought in a third? I read that San Diego, they were able to clear their backlog by hiring a company called Interwest that basically process permits. One solution could be that we bring in a company and we basically say to applicants, look, you're free to hire this company, and that company can basically pre-review the applications before they get submitted into the city, so that we make sure that they get, dot the I's and cross the T's. And if we're able to, so it's some public-private partnership essentially, where, because most residents would pay a lot of money to be able to, have a much shorter process. So I think we should get creative there. I love that. I think AI is going to be the future of this whole process, because so much of it's like the perfect thing for AI in my view, for at least for the first review. So if in the budget you think that you need more resources to support that, I see that as just a game changer for this whole industry, where planners are going to be able to, because you guys have to keep so much stuff in your head, and AI is just I think it'll be very it fits well here. And then do we see design, how many applications or how many projects are pending before design review? Do we know that?
Just to clarify,
high level.
I think what you're asking is how many have cleared zoning plan check and are awaiting design review? Is that
correct? Or potentially having, multiple hearings at design review, where maybe they had one, but then there has to be another staff report.
Sure. So we have, I think the last time we checked, it was like 43 projects that are cleared, and they're in what we would call our staff report hearing phase. They're not all going to the full design review board. That's design review board, planning commission, admin, DRB, and items such as the item coming after us tonight. So we typically average around 40 staff reports that we're actively working on at any given time. We produce around 30 staff reports a month.
Wow. Okay.
Don't you think, so on the likely process, it shows, the total time of 9.5 months, both zoning plan check and building. Do you think that's a good number?
I
mean, it seems
I-
like a very long time to me. But I'm asking from your perspective,
Yeah,
knowing all the things you have to do now.
I think over time we can see that whittle down, but the first, you're correct in identifying that first submittal and response to that first submittal is key. And we're actively working on a number of tools. And I like the idea that you suggested we can look into that. Ideally, we want people to go to one zoning plan check and then no more than 2 entitlement plan checks. That's most cities I've worked in. It's like a little bit, it's not quite 2.5. It's somewhere between 2 and 2.5 average of iterations of review. We're definitely more in the 3+ mode. So if we could lower that, it would be a big benefit.
Yeah.
All around.
I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but why do you think that is? Why do you think we are at 3.5? It's the complexity of our code. It's the fact that people are submitting incomplete packages, right? What else is causing that?
Those are 2 key things. I think the other thing is we have really incredibly talented architects and designers in this city, and they're asked to use their creative talent to maximize the investment potential. And so, and it's not a criticism, that's what they're hired to do and they're good at it, but they have to keep butting against the limits and pushing their creativity and also meeting the program their clients want. So that in itself leads to potentially some more iterations.
A follow-up on Alex's question. I don't think that you answered it. Is it practical to think that we could outsource any of the plan check?
Not currently. If we updated the code and made it more streamlined, I will say to onboard a planner right now, I would say at least 3 months to get them marginally productive. And I would say it's probably close to 9 months to a year where they're like solidly well-versed in the code. So outsourcing makes that really difficult.
Yeah.
But if the
what I
code was
remembered.
simplified, it's an option.
That's what I remembered we made some past efforts at that. And Anthony, again, you said that you thought one of the big solutions was lying with what we're in the process of is the comprehensive code update.
Yes, correct, Mayor Pro Tem. I think one of the things we butt up against is just the extraordinary learning curve when we compare our municipal code to the regulations that planners apply in other jurisdictions. And to the extent that we can make the code easier to learn, interpret, reduce gray area interpretations, introduce graphic representations to show what we mean, I think that'll go a long ways to helping both with our onboarding and also assist the design professionals with designing code compliant projects.
Megan, this is broken up into a couple of phases, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think the initial phase that's coming is what we hope will be an urgency ordinance to implement streamlining. And then there will be follow-up phases, potentially the objective design standards.
How many phases do you expect?
Hopefully just 2.
Just 2?
Yeah.
So by the time they're through coastal and all of that, what do you think the timing would be for each one, for each phase?
Well, it's going to depend on what coastal says about the urgency ordinance for the design review changes. Again, we're continuing to be optimistic that these don't affect coastal resources. These are internal processes that we're improving. But if coastal says no, you got to go through the regular review, then we're talking several months.
Okay, thanks. A lot of it depends on how quick this can happen, whatever solutions they move forward with, right?
Right.
Let me just say, when I spent my day shadowing the community development department, I sat in and there was a Zoom where they walked through, and these were mostly ADUs, and it was the most complicated thing. The questions that there's no clear answer when they're providing these comments on it. So it's just such a, we're so grateful for our planners for all the hard work that they do, and grateful for the, the efforts to have continuous improvement. Because, by the time I feel like ultimately we should not live in the world that we've always lived in, but instead, like, there's no reason this process should not be a 9.5 months. This should be 15 days at the end of the day with technology. That's the world we should live in. There's no reason why this couldn't be with all the brilliance in this world. So anyway, that's what we're going to strive towards. Any other questions or comments on this?
No, I just want to tell Dave, each time we get one of these reports, we have more detail, which I appreciate.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you, Dave. And thank you to your team.
Yeah, great work, you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for all these improvements.
Okay, so we are that's a receive and file. So again, thank you. And let's take a break before we take the appeal. So let's come back. Let's go till 7:15. Is that good? 11 minutes?
I have to recuse
Okay,
myself.
so why don't let's do the last item, the future council items now, so that Hallie can be here for that. Are you okay with that, Hallie? Does anyone have a future item for council consideration? No?
Let's just skip that meeting. Just
Okay.
kidding. That was a joke.
No, there's gonna be other items on the agenda, so. Okay, so we are gonna take a break, and we are gonna send Miss Jones home, so congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll be back at 7:15. We are, so we are going to consider Appeal A at this point. I'd
Are you
like to,
doing Appeal A or are you doing item 11?
we're going to do Appeal A first and
Okay.
then item 11.
Okay.
So I'm going to, okay, so it is Appeal A, which is appeal of a design review board approval at for a single family resident with an attached 2-car garage at 1536 Morningside Drive in the R1 residential zone. I'm going to, at this point, ask for any disclosures of any ex parte communications of council members, including if there's anything that you learned from those ex parte communications. So Councilmember Kemp, do you want to start?
I met with Chris Prelitz.
And then Councilmember Whalen.
I met with Chris Prelitz and then spoke with Steve Quartani.
And then, oh, go ahead.
I had a conversation with Steve Quartani.
And then I had a conversation with Steve Quartani, Chris Prelitz, and Joe Cover. And okay, so we are going to open the public hearing and we will have a staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Renagi and members of the council. Shweta Sharma, Senior Planner with the Community Development Department, presenting item before you this evening, an appeal of the approval of Design Review 24-0919, Coastal Development Permit 24-0921, and the CEQA categorical exemption for 1536 Morningside Drive. As you can see from this aerial, the project is for a vacant site. The slide shows the surrounding areas. The project site is a 13,866 square foot lot with an average lot slope of 35% and is located in the R1 zone. The city parcel is identified in yellow and is located alongside Morningside Drive and is part of a separate item before you tonight for the grant of easement. The project scope that was submitted by the applicant includes a design review and coastal development permit to construct a new single-family residence, attached 2-car garage, grading, retaining walls, elevated decks, new vehicular access, landscaping on an environmentally sensitive area for slopes greater than 30%. There was also an attached additional dwelling unit that is part of the coastal development permit, but not part of the design review project. The project was revised at the hearing to be reduced by 2 feet in height and is shown in red. If you can see on the slide, there's a note that documents that 2 feet reduction. The project was heard on May 9th, 2024. During the hearing, the board received public testimony from surrounding neighbors expressing concerns with issues related to view equity, privacy, and compliance with design review criteria. After discussing the concerns raised by the members of the public and written public correspondence and evaluating the project's consistency with the design review criteria, the board voted 3-1 to conditionally approve the project subject to 3 additional project-specific conditions. One was to ensure that all exterior lighting would be dark sky compliant. The upper ridge line of the roof would be reduced by 2 feet as shown in the plans that were before the board that evening, and that they would also incorporate landscape sheets L2.0 and L.3.0 of the project to be complied with once the project was submitted for construction drawings. In addition to that, there were conditions of approval that required the project to get a Planning Commission approval and review for the indirect access variance. That public hearing was held on November 20th, 2024, and the Planning Commission did approve that indirect access variance with a vote of also 3-1. And just recently on April 2nd, the city easement was found to be in conformance with the city's general plan, and that will also be part of the grant of easement that would be heard after this appeal. Appellant number 1 contends that the Design Review Board failed to make the required findings for the variance. As noted in the staff report, the variance was not subject to approval by the Design Review Board. And so it was incorporated in the conditions of approval for the project that would then require Planning Commission approval. Their second contention is that the resolution should be invalid since legal prerequisites were not met. The property is a legal building site, and so as documented in the staff report, and so staff does feel that that contention is inaccurate. The appellant also had issues with respect to the access, design articulation, general plan compliance, landscaping, neighborhood compatibility, and view equity for the project. The board at their hearing did make findings related to those issues and supported those findings by facts as summarized in the agenda report. The board approval included the condition that would make the approval contingent upon the Planning Commission approval of the indirect access variance and the City Council approval of an access easement over the city parcel. It further provided that if the Planning Commission and City Council did not provide that said variance and easement, the board approval would be null and void. There was no abuse of discretion because there's nothing in the law that requires consideration of the city easement prior to the consideration by the Planning Commission for the indirect access variance before the board could consider the design review and coastal development permits for the project. The City Council would be the ultimate decision maker on land use entitlements and real estate, and that's why the grant of easement is before you this evening. Included on this slide are documents from the project file showing that the city has considered the project a legal building site for at least 35 years prior to the DRB decision on the project. There have been multiple lot line adjustments. Our code requires lot line adjustments can only be processed for parcels that are considered legal building sites. So since this original 1989 document where it was deemed a legal building site, there have been 4 lot line adjustments processed on that parcel. Appellant number 2 has 3 items of contention. The first is that the DRB approval was an abuse of discretion, that there was a procedural error not requiring a second hearing for the project, and that there was a lack of consideration to the design review criteria and general plan policies, including hillside guidelines. There is no written or unwritten policy that requires the board to hold 2 public hearings to consider a project. It's within their discretion to hold 1, 2, or even 3 hearings in the record based on the record and the ability of the board to make the findings. The project is consistent with the city's design guidelines. The development footprint is consistent with existing pattern of development, and the proposed grading quantity includes the minimum amount that would be required for the project. The project is fully consistent with the general plan's vision for responsible hillside development, but it should be noted that the hillside guidelines do not apply to R1 zone properties. Hillside guidelines as adopted in the local coastal program only apply to projects located within Diamond Crestview specific plan. The design review criteria that would apply to the project are the design review guidelines, a guide to residential development, as discussed in the red line resolution before you this evening. The project does qualify for a categorical exemption subject to pursuant to section 15303 of the state CEQA guidelines for new construction or conversion of small structures. There has been additional correspondence received on the project after publication of the staff report. The comments included no items similar to those previously mentioned in both the appellant's appeals as discussed in the agenda report and during this presentation. It is staff's recommendation that the City Council adopt a resolution denying the appeal and sustaining the Design Review Board's decision to approve the project and finding the action categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15303. That concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions.
Excellent presentation. So many complex issues, and you did a really good job explaining them. So thank you. Good job on that. Any questions for staff? Bob?
Maybe the city attorney could highlight the standard of review we're going to be applying here.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Whalen. The standard of review is dictated by the city's municipal code, and it's based on the decision at the lower body. In this case, with respect to designer, the appeal relates to the design review entitlement specifically. And the code provides that if the decision was not supported by four or more affirmative votes, that the city council shall conduct a de novo review of that application, and it shall be limited to the evidence that's already in the record, and that it shall use its independent judgment and discretion in making its determination. And there shall be a presumption that the decision made by the lower body was reasonable, valid, and not an abuse of discretion. So de novo hearing, you can use your independent judgment.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, so at this time, I'm going to open public testimony on this item, and we have two appellants, so I'm going to give each of the appellants 5 minutes to provide remarks, and then people in support of the appeal, which would mean in opposition to the project, will have 3 minutes after that to provide public comments. After that, I will give 5 minutes to the applicant for a presentation, and then there will be 3 minutes for individuals in support of the application against the appeal. And then finally, we will give each of the appellants 2 minutes for rebuttal and bring it back to the council. So that's the order of operation. So we will start with either of the appellants, whoever wants to come up first. Please go ahead.
Can I trouble you for? There's 6 copies.
Yeah, and you can go ahead.
Thank you. My time is running. Can I have 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
It's saying less than 5. So, good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Ed Riahi, 35-year resident of Laguna, and I am the owner of the adjoining property. Tonight, the fundamental question before you, in my view, is fairness. As you might recall, my adjoining project was before council, and council deemed it incompatible with neighborhood and remanded it back to a design review with instructions to reduce the height by some 5 feet and reduce the size. We have not submitted to design review as of yet. We've been awaiting the outcome of tonight's proceeding because in our view, this sets the standard for us with respect to compatibility. We're adjoining properties side by side. The exhibit, and I also I sent a letter out to council members, and I trust that you have had an opportunity to review it, so I won't burden you with repeating that word for word, but I just handed out the exhibits from that letter that I forwarded previously. The first exhibit that you have is a side-by-side comparison of the two projects. The one on the left is my house that was denied. The one on the right is the project before you, which is 3 feet taller than mine, or 3 feet taller than what was rejected, and wider than what was rejected. As far as neighborhood compatibility, the staff report recommended to design review that the current project before you is not compatible with neighborhood standards, and they recommended that the 4th floor be taken out and distributed over the remaining 3 levels. You know, to essentially make it, I guess, neighborhood compatible. The upper level of this house, the 4th floor, also blocks our Catalina Ocean view. and Catalina Island view. The second exhibit that you have is a picture from my property showing the story poles, and you can see Catalina in the background. When we appeared before design review, unfortunately, there was a lot of condensation during that time of the year, and the Catalina wasn't quite visible. It was barely visible. And the board wasn't sure if I could see Catalina or not. And essentially, they disregarded our objection relative to loss of Catalina view. So I assert or I submit to you a loss of view equity or lack of view equity in the present application before you. The other issue here is a variance. This project required a variance to make it accessible, to make it buildable. As it stands, this parcel is landlocked, is unbuildable. You cannot, it doesn't have street frontage. And the reason for that is the way the parcel was created was the map that was recorded was deficient. The map that recorded this parcel was recorded and established this parcel falsely represented that the parcel abuts Morningside Drive. It deceptively omitted the city parcel that lies between this parcel and Morningside Drive. California Subdivision Act is clear. It's unambiguous that any legal parcel created by a recorded subdivision map shall have legal street access. So here, I'm frankly puzzled or baffled how this parcel is deemed a legal parcel because it doesn't have street access. The only way you can have street access is via the easement before you for consideration, which we have no problem with. But the fact is, when this property or this project was reviewed by Design Review Board, it was not a legal lot. It did not have access. And so it required a variance. That variance that was granted did not meet the requirements of variance from the standpoint of the required findings. A finding needs to be made that the variance or the project does not injure the adjoining properties. And well, by the virtue of the exhibit that you have before you, may I have a few more minutes?
Just finish your sentence. You'll get 3 minutes after the applicant. We just have to keep it on, otherwise everyone will get.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So if you want to finish your sentence.
So the exhibit that you have with respect to loss of view, it demonstrates the injury to my property. And I guess I'll pick up, I have 20 minutes here, 20 seconds. Can I use this? Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So now we are going to hear from our next appellant, Mr. Dernays. You have 5 minutes. So we'll wait to start the clock.
Before we start the clock, can we get my
Yeah, we'll get.
PDF up there for review? I just want to make sure you note the date on that variance. It's 2024, not 2023, where the DRB application is. Look, at the end of the day, our biggest problem is the fact that this is a 4-story house that projects, on average, 50 feet above the street. In best case, you can calculate is about 43 feet or 44 feet above the left-hand curb of their driveway. And it's basically projecting up right into our view line. And it's so close that, can you go to the first slide? That we had to actually model the implementation of the house very carefully. We pulled the plans. This is our current plans that are in DRB review now. The staking, as you can see behind it, is certified on both properties. And you can see they have that rear patio staring straight into our only outside patio area on that property at that ground level. We have 2 homes. We split it and we're selling one and we're leaving the other one. My wife and I, my 2 eldest daughters, one of them is going to end up living in the lower floor. And ultimately that home is basically blocking our view to the west or to the north, and it is within where that patio is within 20 feet of that family room we have there. It is also staring straight into the master bedroom of the 1550 property, and over top of the only outside deck area that home has. We had a larger deck in a first draft of this back in February, but we redesigned the home and we've resubmitted it for May 8th. And it is about 400 square feet, and the only outside patio deck area is being stared over directly by that west side. Ultimately, we, go to the next slide. We've been talking to the applicant for about a year since we bought the lot, and they're very kind people. I like Joe very much, and I really wish we were not here. But they have not been willing to make any sort of adjustments or concessions for where they are with their project. Ultimately, we believe their view is to the west. They're trying to claim views across our lot through our future home. Actually, in this case, the home that we're going to sell. And they have views, if you go down to the same level as that home's 4-1, from 492 elevation to 503, which is where we expect their top floor to be, is unobstructed views with the exception of those big trees on the Witten property, or near the Witten property. In addition, we have, go to the next slide. We've done a comparison here to show you one of the problems with this is that everybody's claiming that everybody's trying to get up on the top of the hill. Well, that's correct for the Morningside Drive properties. Both Mr. Yahi and Mr. Cover's designs project up on the hill far beyond what they should per hillside guidelines and the general plan. They're supposed to be protecting the ridge line from the lower floor. And they're also inserting the ADU in between them to justify that projection. But we're not that case. We actually purchased the lot on the top of the hill, and 90% of the two homes that we've designed sit on the top of the hill. 70% of the usable area of those lots is on the top of the hill. And therefore, this isn't an apples to apples comparison. They've projected the home up to block our views, and ultimately, as Mr. Yahi said, this is not a legal lot. They have to go through a certain process. And the design techniques they used, including the on-site driveway and all of the menashing to get that the third and fourth floors up that high, really would have been served differently if the variance had existed in the beginning in 2023 when they went through the DR. The only reason they added the variance, which was required, was because we raised the issue last March when they were going into the May DRB process, including having to fix their staking. If we had not, that process wouldn't have happened until probably a lot later. And ultimately, this particular lot, has very good views from this face, this side you see to the west, all the way up to 503. So ultimately, when you look at go to the next slide. When you look at what we recommend the top floor be removed, the two below it basically be staggered, and the ADU move to the west. And go one more slide. And we also recommend that they're losing an opportunity here to expand the parking on the street instead of doing an on-site driveway, and that easement should be consideration for that. And if they'd started properly with the planning department or the planning commission, they would have had that opportunity ahead of time. So we want you to remand it, and we recommend a public works review of the use of that area of the lot to make sure whatever grant you give them is consistent with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point, we are going to take testimony, 3 minutes each from any members of the public who would like to speak in support of the appeal, which would mean in opposition to the project. So you have 3 minutes.
Before I start, can we advance the slides?
Yeah.
I have an image that comes after the slideshow. One more.
By the way, while you're doing that, it's amazing. I think our NTT staff, it's amazing, Trevor and Joe, how you guys are able to always find the right slide when there's so many different people involved. So thank you for what you do. So I would not be able to do that. I'd get it wrong.
Keep going, please. That's it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is David Parker. I'm the architect for Mr. Yahi and Mr. Drenais. And first, I just want to say that I think it's a really nice looking house. Mr. Perlitz is an excellent designer. So I'm not here to complain about the way the house looks. I'm here to talk about the Laguna Beach design guidelines as they relate to the house. And unfortunately, the house does not comply with many of the city's official design guidelines. So the design guidelines are very clear and they give very clear instructions. In general, minimize the appearance of building mass and retaining wall mass. Terrace the walls, building and roof to relate to the environment and the natural terrain. And the building height should be appropriate to the neighborhood. Unfortunately, the house does not comply with any of these. As you can see, the main house is 2 levels on top of a 22-foot high retaining wall, which results in a very vertical appearance. This wall and the way the levels are stacked on top of each other vertically appears quite tall and massive. There's no terracing, minimizing, or integrating of the retaining walls. Mr. Yahi and Mr. Drenais' views and privacy are impacted by the height of the house. It is an actual 4-story structure, 4 complete levels. This is not compatible with the neighborhood as there are no other houses that have 4 levels from the street. If a 4-level house were to ever be approved in this area, it must be made to look much smaller to be compatible with the other houses in the area, which this is not. And a 4th level should not be allowed to have view or privacy impacts. In summary, the Culver House does not comply with the city's design guidelines. It is not well articulated, having prominent tall retaining walls that are not terraced, has vertical appearances, looks larger than it is, and does not follow the natural topography. It is not neighborhood compatible because of the 4 actual stories which stack in a vertical manner and impacts other property owners' views and privacy. Although they did lower the ridge 2 feet to get approved, the tall appearance from the street, as you can see, is still the same. It should be lowered significantly to make a difference and to bring it more in conformance with the design guidelines. Normally, the board puts great emphasis on the design guidelines and compels architects and designers to adhere to them, but for some reason, that didn't happen this time. And here's the thing. We all see houses which make us think, how did that ever get approved? And I'm afraid this is one of those houses. And when that happens, people see it as unfair, and it creates doubt that the system is working, and that's not good for the city or for its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Before we start the clock, could we cue up my presentation? That's not my presentation.
It's the Steve Coratani presentation. Steve, you got to let people know who you are. It's not me putting it up.
I'm not looking at you. You know, Anne Marie actually wanted me to be late. She told me be here at 8 o'clock. I won't take offense to that. Good evening, Mayor Managi, council members and staff. And I'm going to briefly thank Swetha for her staff report, even though I don't agree with it. It's our contention that the Design Review Board erred in their approval because the design guidelines were not considered. The grounds for appeal are that, number one, staff opined in their report that the project is not neighborhood compatible due to the 4-story program that is inconsistent with the neighborhood. The appearance of the building and retaining wall mass have not been minimized due to the lack of articulation. Staff recommended the relocation of the 4th floor to the 3rd floor. The proposed project does not follow the hillside guidelines, which really are a policy on R1 lots, and the proposed retaining wall is 21 feet in height. The excessive height of the 4th floor creates both privacy and view issues for adjacent properties. The garage has an orientation that is not consistent with the neighborhood and is twice the size of a standard driveway. The proposed landscape plan does not mitigate the massing of the structure nor the outside walls. Next slide, please. We recognize that the DRB did not have the benefit of the City Council comments prior to approving the project. It is not remarkable that both properties have similar concerns expressed by appellants, as both designs sought to minimize view, yet being within the allowable building envelope. The council decision should not be based on neighborhood popularity, but rather on neighborhood compatibility, articulation, and garage design. The City Council established that the neighborhood consists of homes that were up to 2 stories, and new development needed to follow the immediate neighborhood's pattern of development. 1526 Morningside was deemed not neighborhood compatible and remanded due to the proposed 3-story program, the appearance of mass and height, the need for greater building articulation and garage design. 1536 Morningside Drive is approximately the same height, is proposed to have 4 floors, and the appearance of mass, if you look at my exhibit at the top, is 32% greater than 1526 Morningside. It is clear based on earlier council direction that 1536 Morningside is not neighborhood compatible, requires additional articulation, and the garage and driveway should be reconsidered. The appellant respectfully requests that the council direction be equitably applied to this application and that the project be remanded to the Design Review Board with clear direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so are there any other members of the public who want 3 minutes to speak on this? I don't see anyone else. Okay, so now we're going to give, is it 2 minutes or 3 minutes? We're going to give 2 minutes to each of the no, we're not going to do that yet. We're going to go now to the applicant, and we will give 5 minutes to the applicant and to the sorry, I apologize. So we're going to give 5 minutes to the applicant. You can use it however you want, and then there will be any members of the public who want to provide testimony in support of the applicant as 3 minutes each. So I'm going to give the applicant 5 minutes, and we'll start from there. So Mr. Prelitz, are you gonna you'll start us off at? Good. Okay. Yeah, take your time.
Before the timer goes off, did you get my packet that I had sent? Should be a 4-page packet?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes.
Well, good evening, Council. Mayor Alex, nice to see you all here. Chris Prelitz, 40-year resident, 30 years doing solar homes, solar sustainable green homes. And staff did do an excellent job on the project. I just want to address what I heard from the appellates right away, that the initial staff report said that because it was a 4-story, they did not realize that there was a home 2 or 3 homes away built by Arnold and Bonnie Haino. It's actually 4 stories. And they missed that in the report. We brought it up at DRB, and then it became part of the project now. And so staff sort of let that fall through the cracks, and there is precedent for 4 stories just 2 or 3 homes away in the neighborhood. So I just want to start with that one. Staff did miss one part of the agenda, and that is page 21 of the attachment on sustainability. And because it's Earth Day, I have to stand on my soapbox for a second. So sustainability says that new development should consider A, reducing the energy needs of buildings by proper site and structural design, and B, increase the building's ability to capture or generate energy. And the staff's response is that the building will meet Title 24. So Title 24 is the basic bare bones minimum that every single building in California has to meet. And I know this board has said we need to go above and beyond that, and it actually exists in our design review guidelines. So you can cherry pick guidelines that you want to follow, whichever it is, compatibility, articulation. I have always chosen to choose sustainability. It's in our guidelines about passive solar design. It's the front page of the letter that I sent you. It is in page 56. It does not get applied often, but it is what I've really lived by for 30 years. So the top floor of the building, next slide, please. The top floor of the building was established to make this building a passive solar building, where we capture that heat from the sun in winter when we need it, we shade it so that it doesn't come in summer. And that is the very best way to make a home sustainable, to have the lowest carbon footprint, the lowest lifetime operating costs, the most comfort. Next slide, please. And so that's what we did. That is the top floor of the building. The floor under it is where the children will be. The top floor, by the way, is the primary bedroom, the great room, kitchen, and living room. The floor underneath is where the 3 children will be. That's subterranean. It'll have no passive gain, so it'll stay comfortable year-round, about 67 degrees without much need for heating and air conditioning. The next slide, please. The ADU is not part of Design Review Board. So what was approved by DRB is the 2-story home and the subterranean garage. The ADU is included in the package because we wanted to show the entire package. But as far as DRB, it is only a 2-story home and the subterranean garage. The ADU will be used by the parents, John and Jan Kane. This is a multi-generational, longtime Laguna Beach family that wants to make this their home for 2 generations of people. Next slide, please. And an elevator will connect the bottom to the top so that everyone can age in place. So Bluebird Canyon, as we all know, I've heard it described tons of ways. Bohemian, eclectic. It was all built in the 60s. We have famous architects who've done projects there. 99% of them were all wood-sided. And so we wanted to recreate a project that would look as if it was built in the 1960s. So we found a wood siding that's actually treated to be a Class A fire rated. Ironwood is a Class A fire rated. The metal is corrugated Core 10 to give it that rustic feel. It's a bronze aluminum windows and doors, hog wire on the railings. So a real sort of bohemian 60s, going to fit really nicely in the neighborhood. And we worked for 2 years, I think, with the neighbors to have every single resident that's impacted support the project. One of the reasons the driveway turns sideways is that we can accommodate all the cars that are needed for the property on site, because Morningside is very, very impacted on parking. It only exists on one side. I know Mayor Whalen, when you came out, Councilman Whalen, when you came out, you mentioned that there's this new fire code that talks about a 5-foot buffer of no embers. And I wanted to address that. I think the next slide addresses that. Well, no, so go back, I'm sorry, am I at 5? No, at 5. The retaining wall, they mentioned that it was 20-something feet. It's only about 15 feet, and then it steps up and then goes again. And there's a large planting pocket in the midsection that cascades plantings over. All of that will be able to be saved with this new fire code. The plants on the back wall behind the stairs, we may have to adjust those. And so there's some alternatives that we would like to suggest using. Next slide. These are metal sculptural pieces that could be used to do those. Am I out of time?
Do you want to just finish the sentence?
Oh, next slide. This is the 4-story house that exists in the neighborhood. So I better sit down.
Yeah, just finish the final sentence. 10
There's one more slide.
Okay.
I went too long.
Yeah.
It's turned sideways. That's not good.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
The slide was a comparison that our project is 10 feet lower than the other ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to give 3 minutes to any individuals who would like to speak in support, in opposition to the appeal, and in support of the project.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Mary Figris, 1561 Morningside Drive, right across from the project you're talking about. 53 resident of Upper Bluebird Canyon, and we really are a distinct area in Laguna. I'm speaking for my neighbors. We have been so pleased with the cooperation and the listening we've had regarding this project. Chris Prellis and the Cover family have bent over backwards to address all of our concerns. I was so impressed when I asked Chris about, can you tell me what exactly each flag pole means, when you do the staking, because it's always a bit confusing. And he did it for all of our neighbors, and everyone is very happy with this. The knoll is precious. It's been empty for a long time. What's going to be done now for the first structure to be built on it is really important for our neighborhood. And our neighborhood is 100% behind this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. No, you can go. Yeah. Anyone who's just, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Thanks. New to all this, sorry.
No, it's all good.
I'm just trying to build a home for the family. Joe Cover, I'm one of the applicants. Got my wife, my son Ethan here, father-in-law John. So we're the kind of 3 generational families here. Wanted to make one correction. Shavita, thank you so much for that presentation. It was actually a 3-0 vote on the Planning Commission. So I want to make sure that was correct. So as far as the contentions are concerned, a couple of things that I did want to also point out. The photo that you guys got from Ed is the same photo that he mentioned in design review. The photo is not taken from his second story floor height, which is somewhere around 510 feet. Our eave that was 511, I believe in the original plans, actually goes down now 2 feet to go below that. And then also if you actually stand at story pole 7, which I actually did with David and David over here, you can very, very clearly see how it goes over our structure. Ours is tucked in a little bit more to the hillside. Ed's and his decks go out a little bit further north. And so he has a very, very clear view of Catalina, irrespective of what he has claimed. David, I'm not sure exactly what to say. All the contentions, I think they've been addressed very well by the staff report. We've, like Mary mentioned, tried to be good neighbors. It's the things that you've asked us to try to do, like coming down another 10 feet when yours is already, as it is, 10 to 12 to 15 feet, however it is, higher than ours, is just something that we can't do. We're not trying to get that southwest corridor view that you've got on that whole side of your house. We're trying to get a frontwards view. If we got to come down anymore, we lose that amongst the trees, amongst the vegetation, especially in the springtime, and we don't have that anymore. So we're just trying to really kind of build something for our family that does provide some value, that provides a long-term place for us to live, and really not get in anybody's way. But here we are, and respectfully trying to just do the right thing for the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Any other speakers in support or in opposition to the appeal? Support of the project? No? Okay, then I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to give the 2 appellants each 2 minutes to respond to, or just to say whatever you want to say.
First, I'll address the picture. The picture is actually, I stood on the ground, not at the 2nd level, but at the 3rd level of our house, which is our upper level or top level. And that's looking straight through. It's out there. You can go out, check it out. But the photo is absolutely from our 3rd level elevation, looking straight out. Going back to the variance issue I was talking about, there was no finding for this variance on this project. The design review board, if you look at the resolution, they did not make any findings relative to the variance. They passed it on to Planning Commission. And when it went to Planning Commission, their focus was narrowly defined just to be on the axis, on the easement area. They expressly excluded the building itself. They said that's not part of our purview or scope of task today. So there is no finding that has been made so far. As far as the height of their structure or 2-story, the reality is somebody standing on the street looking up, they're going to see a 4-story building. It is that, you can't distinguish between what's ADU, what's not. That their house is 2 stories, but the problem is the floor of the house, the bottom level is 21 feet above the back of the driveway. It's pushed way up. One solution is, great, just let's keep it the way it is, but lower the house, drop it down instead of being 21 feet, drop it down by one level, so that'll kind of merge it visually into 3 levels. In all fairness, we're requesting that you apply the same set of standards that you applied to our house to review this house. These 2 houses are going to get built and they're going to stand there, as David Parker stated. Somebody's going to come out and look at it and say, why is that? One is like a dwarf, and this other one, there's this 4-story house right next to it. That's not neighborhood compatibility. My time is up, and thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you. And then we'll hear from the final appellant, Mr. Durnez.
Thank you again. A few things about Mr. Prelott's comments. That 4-story home you mentioned, that's not code compliant, couldn't be built today. We have to be, and that creates a lot of restrictions for us. Also, every home has to have solar on it, and it doesn't matter what height the home is, you can do that passive solar implementation. a lot of that stuff's irrelevant. Also, the ADU, the home has to meet zoning plan code independent of the ADU. They can't stick the ADU in above the garage and leave those 2 floors way above it. Those have to connect to the garage. This council said that at Ed's meeting last July. In particular, this terracing of them, then Mayor Kemp said very articulately that they should be terraced down the hill, following the street and the ridge line. And if you move Ed's down, this one has to go down too. Further, the peak of the roof, as Joe mentioned, is actually 513.5. The grade at that level right there is 502. So it's about 11 and a half feet above the grade there, but that's at the property line. They're actually projecting up another 6 feet from the grade on the hill where the actual home's built, on the slope down. And look, and with all due respect to Mary, I mean, you know, we were completely excluded from any neighborhood meetings, and we are part of the community. I've lived in this town for 25 years, raised my kids here. My home for the last 10 years stares over top of this area, right? I can see the hills, their homes, the knoll from my house. And defending my house against Dornan led me to decide to move and buy this lot. We are going to be a multi-generational family. We're creating an ADU on our property so that my wife and I can live on the top floor and one of my girls can move into the bottom floor. I welcome them into the neighborhood. I welcome us, hopefully, to the neighborhood to be good neighbors to them. And I want to collaborate here, but that home's placement is just unreasonable given where our home has to sit. We have no other options. They do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I am going to close public testimony on this, and then let's hear from, or actually, no, before I do that, I'm going to, staff, do you have any responses to any of the assertions or issues that have been raised during the course of this, this public testimony?
I did want to respond to the fact that they wanted confirmation that Public Works wasn't intending to use the grant of easement as part of the project review. There have been multiple conversations with Public Works to determine that there are no plans to widen Morningside Drive, and that's not what the purpose of that strip that is owned by the city parcel is owned for. And then in terms of the design review guidelines, clearly, as part of the hearing, the design review board felt that the project was consistent with the design review guidelines as it relates to design articulation, neighborhood compatibility, and
Can you say that again? I can't quite hear you. Move it closer.
Sorry. And then as it relates to design review guidelines, the design review board did find that the project was consistent with the guidelines and presented at the May 9th, 2024 DRB hearing.
Okay, any questions of staff from council? No questions to staff? Okay, then I'm going to close public testimony on this, the public testimony portion of this hearing, and we will have council comments and deliberation. So who wants to start us off?
Can we have a recap on some of the new findings that came up over the last couple of days?
Do you mean in regards to the legal building site and the hillside guidelines?
Yeah.
Yes. So I can pull the presentation up. Yes, so there was some, I guess, I believe, discussion as to whether or not the project was a legal building site. And as part of the review of the project that was done before it was taken to design review board was a comprehensive review of all the projects that have been processed on this parcel. Because it doesn't have an address, it's mostly done with relationship to the parcel numbers. And so for the parcel numbers for this, in 1989, the city determined that it was a legal building site, and subsequently there were 4 lot line adjustments that were processed. Our city code requires that lot line adjustments can only occur on parcels that are deemed building sites. And so in order for the city to have processed any of these lot line adjustments that would have been approved by the city council at that time, that would be only able to have happened if it were a building site. And then as it relates to the hillside guidelines, there are some elements in terms of how projects should be developed for the hillside that have been incorporated into the new design review guidelines that replace the previously adopted hillside guidelines that were adopted in 1989. The 2010 design guidelines do incorporate some of them directly and use even some of the same terminology and descriptions and depictions, but they only are applicable in their entirety to the Diamond Crestview specific plan. And this is an R1 zone parcel. And so they are not applicable to this project unless they are referenced in the existing design review guidelines.
Well, in my mind, those two issues, that's complete clarity to those. And, you know, Laguna is not a typical place, right? I understand the comments that were made about the legal building site, but I believe there is adequate evidence that it is a legal building site. So, and I understand also the comments about the hillside and how it was applied to the Diamond's Crestview and not in the rest of the, it's not applicable in the rest of the, in R1 areas.
There questions or comments from the council?
You know, in light of the decision that we made with the adjacent property next door, how does staff reconcile, you know, our decision there with this design here, in terms of, you know, request to lower the height and eliminate the gap between the garage and the living space, living levels up above? I mean, yeah, that was raised in the testimony. I'm just, what are our views on that?
I can bring up a slide I've prepared that just briefly shows a comparison between 1526 and 1536. With planning, a lot of it is site-specific. The constraints are different for the different parcels. 1526 Morningside is a much smaller lot. It's about half the size of the lot, but the program is larger. And so on 1536 Morningside, the single-family residence is about 1,000 square foot smaller. We would not be including the ADU square footage as really part of the program in terms of design review guidelines. And so when the design review board is looking at a 2,300 square foot home on a 13,000 square foot lot, they would generally find that the project is suitable for that size. Whereas they might find a program that's 3,400 square feet on a 6,800 square foot lot is perhaps too large for that site. And so when the design review board was reviewing 1536 Morningside in response to the comments that were made at the hearing, they did respond based on their own analysis and their own site visits that they did not feel that the project at 1536 Morningside had view equity concerns because, again, it's view equity and not view preservation. They felt that the program did allow for views from the neighboring adjoining parcels. They felt that with the components, while there is large retaining walls, there's also plantings that would break up the appearance of mass. And that's what the design review guidelines say, to use a variety of materials to reduce the appearance of bulk and mass. And so there were discussions of how the project would incorporate these design elements in terms of colors and material to reduce the overall appearance. And the design review board felt that the project was in conformance with the design review criteria.
Do you have a side elevation of 1526 by any chance?
I can pull one up.
As you're doing that, just to refresh my memory, the issues were related to neighborhood compatibility, right? Or was there another issue that we raised? And yeah.
The appeal to confirm if it was besides neighborhood compatibility.
So this is a section for 1526. It might take a moment to render. So that's the street elevation for 1526, and this is the right and or west elevation for the project. And this is the elevation that would be adjacent to 1536 Morningside. So with this one, it's, 4 levels on top of each other. 1526 has the turn-in garage, which is also recommended by the design review guidelines with the ADU on top. And then there's an elevator that connects it to the separate 2-story single-family residence.
So the public hearing is closed, but
There's this is the incorrect set of plans. This was not approved by design review. The upper clear story level was removed from the approved plans. I just wanted to point that out. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be out of order. But we're
Okay.
looking at the right plans.
well, I actually do want to make sure for the record that we get the right plans just for everyone's purposes here. So, right, Megan, is that fair? So
I
with-
guess my point, just to be clear, and I
So I wanna make sure-
understand what you're
okay.
saying.
with what?
I don't know how particular we need to get on
Yeah,
that
'cause
elevation.
why don't, before we raise that issue, why don't we see what point Mark's making? Because if the issue that Mark's raising is key to that, then we'll make sure we have the right plans. I just want to have a good record here. So go ahead, Mark.
If you look at the project that's in front of us and you look how far back the second story is, it really affects its sight lines. Does that make sense? The staggering is much more dramatic.
Because and that's because it's a much bigger lot.
Yeah.
And
You
Megan,
can imagine if you're standing in the street, it would be interesting to do how much of it you would actually see.
let me know when you figure out what the issues were on the other one with the design review issues. And so, Mark, I just want to be clear, what was shown, were those plans that you saw on the screen relevant to what you?
Yeah, even if I deleted that top story, it just shows that the staggering of the first and second floor are quite a bit less than what we see here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. But I just want to make sure that you weren't relying on anything that was inaccurate
No,
in those
I was
plans
not.
and making that what you just said. Okay, thank you. Any luck, Megan?
Mr. Mayor, the city council's motion on 1526 on the remand was to address neighborhood compatibility, design articulation, and garage design.
Okay. Yeah, so does any of my colleagues have any comments on the further or comments on this item? Sue?
Yeah, no, I spent quite a bit of time going through these reports, and I'm very familiar with that area because I lived up there for 13, I haven't lived up there for 4 or 5 years, but I lived up there for 13 years. So I'm very familiar with what's gone on with these parcels. I remember there were lot splits up there. Somebody wanted to build a mechanical building up there. Mary, you probably remember that. That was a number of years ago. So there's nothing that says it's not a legal building site. I think the design is, I don't find any abuse of discretion. I'll just cut to the bottom line here. I spent quite a bit of time looking at it. I just don't see it. I think the design is good, supported by the neighborhood. I think it's neighborhood compatible. So I'm probably, I'm going to vote to deny the appeal, but I just don't find any abuse of discretion here.
Thank you. Can you bring up the slide with the comparison again? Because I think for me, this really, the issue that I had with the other, and again, it doesn't necessarily matter our opinion on the other site, but I do think fairness is very important. And so I want to provide my analysis in the context of the other project where we did sustain the appeal and remand it. I think that from a neighborhood compatibility standpoint, the project before us is neighborhood compatible. I can look at all the evidence in the record supports that conclusion. Just on a numbers basis, what we're dealing with is a lot size that's twice the size of the lot that we were that the other project had. And and we're not, for purposes of doing our neighborhood compatibility analysis, we're not to look at the ADU. So what we're comparing is a roughly 2,300 square foot house compared to a 3,400 square foot house, and the 3,400 square foot house is on a lot that's half the size. I think, to Mayor Pro Tem's point, just the sheer size of the lot allows for the project before us to be to have setbacks in a way that, and also I think just the slope is effectively utilizes the terracing. And so from the street, the appearance of mass, and from a mass and scale perspective, I think this integrates much more sensitively into the hillside. So ultimately, I think that, this is a good project. All the sustainability items are exciting, but ultimately they're required by state law, but they're still exciting. And I think this is a good project. And so I'm prepared. I agree with Councilmember Kempf. I'm prepared to deny the appeal and sustain the approval of this project based on the evidence in the record. And interested to hear what the remaining two colleagues think.
Well, the first two questions that I asked earlier have been cleared up, and I do believe that the substantial setback and the visual, these two elevations are deceiving. I know how they work, but if you're down on the street and you're looking up at it, there's going to be quite a big difference, and I think that the size of the lot will accommodate this property or this structure. So I would agree. I think that I would deny the appeal as well.
I think that the neighborhood compatibility question is a key one. I'm not quite sure what we're relying on for neighborhood compatibility. I think this is a 4-level project. It's large. It's larger than anything up there that I saw surrounding it. I appreciate the comments from the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem that, I think you're saying it's articulated back perhaps more than the other one was. Although I think what we were more concentrating on the other one was to connect the garage and the upper development, and less to be saying articulated back. I think I'm not sure, I'm not convinced by the lot coverage issue as driving something that's neighborhood compatible, because what you're looking at is the visual issue of the home and the height of the home. I mean, if you had something that went up to, it would still have the same lot coverage if it went up to maximum height. I'm not sure that would still make it neighborhood compatible, but I just, anyway, those are my thoughts. So I think I'm gonna vote to, I would vote to remand it. So I will likely be voting against the motion that's made.
Any other comments on this item? Okay, then I would move that we adopt and do we need to make it clear the updated resolution?
Yeah, I was just going to recommend that, Mr. Mayor. Trina, do you have the red line that you could pull up on the screen so that we can see? These are proposed changes to address the changes to the resolution regarding the hillside development guidelines based on the determination that they're inapplicable to the R1 zone.
And so that would start on page 29.
I think the first change will be on page 11, Mr. Mayor.
let's pull those up.
The red lines just note that the hillside guidelines do not apply to this parcel as that it's located in the R1 zone, and that's on page 11. There are additional red lines further in the CDP findings that were made for the project, I believe starting on page 28 maybe. Let's And so again, this is just clarifying that only the city's design guidelines would apply and not the hillside guidelines. But that it is consistent with those guidelines by having this building step with the site slope and that dividing a larger building mass into smaller modules, which this project does. And again, just on page 30, clarifying that the hillside development guidelines do not apply. Same on page 31. And I believe that is the end of all of the red lines that were made in the resolution.
Okay, so I would move to deny the appeal, and I would like to adopt the resolution as amended and as shown on the screen with the red line version for the changes, per the city attorney. So I would like to adopt that resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
So the motion passes 3-1. The appeal is denied and the updated attached resolution or updated resolution is adopted. So so that addresses that item. And then we have, so thank you staff for the very complex issue. And then now we're going to go back to item 11, and this will be this is related to the item 11, consideration of a city grant of real property easement over a city parcel to property owner of 1536 Morningside Drive. So do we have a staff report on this item?
We do, Mayor. Let me pull up the presentation.
Do you want a staff report?
How long is the staff report?
Quick, I guess.
It's
Okay,
2
go ahead.
slides.
Good.
As just discussed, this is the grant of easement for the appeal project at 1536 Morningside with the appeal now, or with the approval now being upheld. The city parcel that it requires the indirect variance was approved by Planning Commission, and so now the city council would just be looking at approving the 18.8 feet of access easement along the city-owned parcel so that the 1536 Morningside Drive will have access to the site. The project components include payment to the city in the amount of $4,068.66. The property owner would also dedicate to the city the development of one on-street public parking space, and they would provide that space within the city's right-of-way easement. And then the last issue is that there's a maintenance agreement to allow for the property owner to be obligated to maintain the retaining wall that's proposed in the city-owned right-of-way. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay. And question to the city attorney in terms of can you just share the legal analysis that we have to undertake here in terms of public benefit, and there's discussion of the appraisal and that whole issue. Can you just give us the high level approach by which we should look at this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that question. The city's decision to dispose of its property is a legislative action. In disposing of property, the city should determine that to avoid a gift of public funds, that there is adequate consideration exchange for the real property and that there's a public benefit provided. There's also a requirement under Government Code Section 65402 that the disposition of the property is consistent with our general plan. The Planning Commission is charged with that action and did so make that determination as to the easement earlier this month. So as referenced in the staff report, the requirements have been satisfied.
Got it. Any questions of staff? No? Okay, then let's open public comment on this item. Do any members of the public want to provide public comment on the this item?
David Durnez again, of course. I I believe the applicant has the right to request this easement. What I've said all along is that the city has to get proper consideration for it. And adding a public parking spot is a requirement without the easement involved for any new home. That particular variance that they're required, any paying fees of that's required for any variance. So ultimately, based on what I've read, the city is getting no consideration for granting this easement. And it's a missed opportunity for the neighborhood because I think the applicant should actually be improving that street and adding 4, maybe 5 parking spots along that city lot to improve parking on the street, which would obviously leave needing to put a driveway on his property. And ultimately, regardless of what the staff has said here, it is a legal fact that in 2004, when this lot was split, it was abandoned and did not have direct access, and that made it not buildable. It does require the easement. Until the easement is granted, it is not a legal building lot by municipal code and state code. So, you know, I wouldn't trust everything you hear in some of these meetings, even from staff, because staff can definitely make mistakes. We've seen that in the past. Ultimately, I would like to make sure that the city consider asking for additional parking on that area. And while the planning department, or sorry, Public Works Department may not have current plans to improve that city lot, what I've asked for is that you conduct a study to determine what the future use should be, because that corner of that area there, that whole set of retaining stuff is all crumbling. It's steep and it's very tight on that corner there, and that whole part should be improved. And this should, whatever easement you grant, should be consistent with that plan. And without a study, that this is basically just giving away city access, city rights to a private property owner. It is not in a public benefit, which must be the consideration here. There must be some public benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly. So there is consideration. It's in there. Slide, she mentioned it. We've got $4,000 that we've asked that we could pay. And what we did was we took a look at the lot value that we purchased. We divided that by the square footage. We're only asking for a very, very small portion of this city-owned lot. The rest of it is being semi-maintained by the city. It has some pavers on it from, I think, a different project back in the day. It's not ours. We're happy to help maintain it if the neighbor, along with our neighbors, if that's what we want to do. But ultimately, there's definitely consideration. The production of another parking space there and the way that we've associated the garage that allows us to take cars off of the street is going to have us spend a lot of money when it comes to the grading. We know that. That's part of this project, is a ton of money on the grading. So we do feel like there's definitely adequate consideration and there's a public benefit that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who'd like to, Mr. Prelitz? Go ahead.
Just if staff could clarify if that parking space is required for this development.
Okay, we'll hear from staff after public comment. Any other members of the public who want to provide testimony on this easement? No? Okay, so I'm going to close public comment on this item. Let's bring it back to the council and the staff. And do you want to answer the question raised about the requirement of public parking?
Certainly, the municipal code requires an on-street public parking space for every 50 feet of street frontage. Because this easement is only for 18.8 feet, it does not meet the threshold to provide an on-street public parking space. And so the inclusion of the on-street public parking space is a public benefit in addition to the monetary amount being considered for the grant of easement.
So you're saying it's not required under our code? So why is it being required?
It's being proposed and it would be considered a public benefit for the grant of easement. Per the code, I believe initially the project was thought that it might meet that threshold of having 50 feet of frontage, but because the grant of easement is only that 18.8 feet, and that frontage then is only 18.8 feet, it does not meet the threshold for requiring a on-street public parking space per our code.
So who, was it DR that said put a space there?
I believe when the project initially came in back in 2017, perhaps the understanding would have been that the easement would have been along the entire property frontage. And if that had been the case, then and it had exceeded or met a minimum of 50 feet of street frontage, then that space would have been required. But because ultimately the grant of easement is only for 18.8 feet, that threshold is not met, and therefore the public on-street public parking space is not required for the project.
So it's not a condition of the DR approval?
It's a component of the project. So it was proposed as being included in the project, and so it will be as included with the construction drawing, but it's not a requirement for the project.
So just in other words, so I can understand the what's going on here. If there was no easement at issue, there would not be a requirement for this public parking space. Is that a fair characterization?
I believe when staff communicated to the applicant that it would be required, it was with the understanding that the easement would meet that minimum 50-foot threshold, but as it stands, it does not. So that on-street public parking space is being included by the applicant as a public benefit in order to request the grant of easement.
Yes, so that answered my question. So basically, if on the, because there's two separate issues, there's a quasi, adjudicatory rule that we dealt with earlier, right? And on that, we applied the code. The code does not require for this property that we would need that parking space, right? Okay, so then we step back, we move on to we put our legislative hats on, and here we have to make the findings of a public benefit in exchange for, giving the city easement. And as I see it, there are sort of two arguments for public benefit here. One is the payment, the property owner payment to the city in the amount of $4,068, which was based on a methodology of using the purchase price of the property for the based on the size of this easement. Number two is a public parking space that was not required as part of the code. So for purposes of this legislative action, that would be the public benefit. Got it, right?
That's
Any
correct.
other questions or comments on this? No? Okay, so I would move that we authorize the city manager to execute an easement to the property owner of 1536 Morningside Drive based on and with the conditions laid out in the staff report, which include the payment to the city, the property owner dedication to the city with the area marked blue in figure 3 to accommodate the development of a on-street public parking space, the development of an on-street public parking space on the city parcel, and then the development and maintenance of the portion of the property owner's retaining wall on the city's parcel. So I guess all of the items that were listed in the staff report, and I would like to find the recommended actions exempt from CEQA under CEQA guidelines section 15303. For a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So that passes 4-0, and that is it. That is our last agenda. So thank you, everyone.